every strong face you see in the daylight hides a silent battlefield once the world goes quiet. When the noise fades, when the roles fall away, when no one is asking anything of you, what remains is the truth you carry inside. The thoughts that echo, the worries that linger, the memories you wish would soften, and the weight you never learned to put down, not because you're weak, but because no one ever taught you how to rest the mind. We were raised to push, to grind, to endure, to stay awake through storms instead of learning how to calm them, to chase goals without ever learning how to return to ourselves. But there's a part of you, a wiser part, whispering for something different, something quieter, something steady, not escape, but reset. The Stoics believed that strength isn't built only in the heat of the struggle, but in the stillness of the recovery. They understood that the mind is like a deep ocean, turbulent on the surface, but holding an immovable power in the depths. They knew that the subconscious doesn't need to be forced. It needs to be reminded of its own nature. It needs a software update for the soul, written in the language of reason, while the body rests. Tonight, we aren't just closing our eyes to forget the day. We are entering the forge. We are teaching the heart to stay calm even when the world is chaotic. We are retraining the hidden parts of the mind to let go of what we cannot control so we can wake up with an iron grip on what we can. 4 hours to let the logic of the sages sink into your bones. 4 hours to stop the mental loops and start the inner healing. 4 hours to turn your sleep into your greatest source of power. Lay down the armor. The battle is over for today. It's time to sleep your way to strength. The light is fading now, and with it, the world that demands so much of you is beginning to dissolve. You are standing at the edge of a great threshold, that quiet space where the day ends and the deep unknown begins. Most people fall into this space by accident, drifting like a ship without a rudder, allowing the leftover noise of the day to pull them wherever it wants. But you are not most people. You are here to reclaim the night. This is the moment where you stop being a passenger in your own mind and start becoming its master. There is a hidden doorway between being awake and being asleep, a thin veil where your deepest beliefs are shaped. If you walk through it with purpose, you change everything. This delicate bridge between worlds is where the most important work happens. In the moments before you lose consciousness, your mind enters a state of deep openness, a fluidity that the ancient teachers knew could be harnessed. They spoke of a ruling faculty, an inner guide that has the power to choose which thoughts are allowed to take root and which must be cast aside. Usually, as you grow tired, this guide falls asleep before your body does. You find yourself trapped in loops of worry or replays of conversations that don't matter. But the first step to true strength is keeping this inner light burning just a little longer. You are learning to sit at the controls of your mind as the external world goes dark. As you lie there, you notice the thoughts that begin to float to the surface. Some are heavy, filled with the pressure of tomorrow. Others are sharp, carrying the sting of a mistake made hours ago. Instead of grabbing onto them, you use your ruling faculty to observe them as if they were clouds passing across a night sky. You do not argue with them. You do not try to fix them. You simply recognize that they are not you. You are the one watching them. This is the act of directing your inner logic. You are telling your subconscious that while the body is preparing to rest, the spirit remains anchored in reason. You are setting the frequency for the hours to come. This transition isn't about effort or straining your eyes to stay awake. It is about a gentle, firm intention. It is like a captain giving the final orders to the crew before a long voyage. You are whispering to your deeper self that only what is virtuous, only what is true, and only what is within your control deserves a place in your dreams. By doing this, you prevent the day's chaos from leaking into your rest. You are filtering the images that try to enter your mind. When a thought of fear appears, you meet it with a simple realization. This is an impression, not a reality. You strip it of its power before it can settle into your subconscious. This is how you begin to reprogram the very foundation of who you are. The biology of this moment is just as profound as the philosophy. Your brain waves are slowing down, moving into a rhythm where the barriers between your conscious will and your hidden habits are thinnest. In this state, a single thought of peace, repeated with the weight of your entire being, has more power than 1,000 thoughts in the middle of a busy afternoon. You are planting seeds in a field that is finally ready to receive them. If you allow yourself to drift off while focused on a resentment, you are essentially watering a weed. But if you hold the image of your own resilience, if you focus on the steady beat of your heart as a sign of nature's perfect order, you are cultivating a forest of strength that will be there to greet you when you wake. This process turns sleep from a period of lost time into a period of deep construction. You are training the mind to remain in a state of firm grip, even as the senses turn off. It is the practice of maintaining your character when no one is watching, not even yourself. As the heaviness in your limbs grows, you don't fight it. You lean into it, using the physical relaxation as a signal that the mind is now safe to let go of the external world. You are retreating into the inner citadel, that place of absolute safety that lives within your chest. You are making a conscious choice to leave the baggage of the ego at the door. You are not your name, your job, or your problems. You are the awareness that remains when all of those things are stripped away. By mastering this entry point, you ensure that your sleep is not a place of escape, but a place of empowerment. You are teaching your subconscious that it does not need to solve the world's problems while the sun is down. You are giving it permission to heal. The strength you seek isn't something you have to go out and find tomorrow. It is something you are building right now, in the silence, through the way you choose to close the day. You are the architect of this rest. Every breath you take in this state is an affirmation of your ability to remain steady. You are becoming the person who can face any storm because you have learned how to find the center of the storm within yourself before the lights go out. As the edges of your thoughts begin to blur and the logic of the waking world fades, the last thing you hold on to is this sense of ownership. You are going into the deep waters of the night with a clear direction. You are not afraid of the dark because you have brought the light of your own reason with you. The work is done. The commands have been given. Now, as the transition completes, you allow the momentum of this peaceful logic to carry you down into the stillness, knowing that the strength you have planted will grow in the quiet, undisturbed, and unshakable. As the last thread of conscious control slips away and you sink deeper into the cooling shadows of the mind, you leave behind the world of words and enter the world of reactions. The safety you established at the gate is now tested in the basement of your being. Deep within the folds of your brain lies an ancient guardian, a sentinel that has been awake for millions of years, watching for shadows in the tall grass. It does not speak in logic. It speaks in the language of the racing pulse, the cold sweat, and the sudden jolt of terror. Most people are at the mercy of this primal watcher, waking up exhausted because their inner protector spent the night fighting ghosts. But there is a way to invite a teacher into that dark space, a way to bring the stillness of a sage into the heart of the lizard brain. This ancient part of you, the amygdala, is responsible for your survival, but it often mistakes a memory for a threat and a dream for a disaster. When you are asleep, it remains on high alert, scanning the stories your mind creates for any sign of danger. If it finds one, it floods your system with the chemicals of fight or flight, turning your sanctuary into a place of stress. To change this, you must begin the process of desensitization while you are still in the light. You do this by teaching this primitive sensor that an image is just an image. In the hours before rest, when you encounter a moment of irritation or a flash of fear, you do not let it bloom. You meet it with a cold, analytical eye. You look at the surge of emotion and realize it is merely a physical event, a movement of atoms that has no power to harm your character. By practicing this objective seeing during the day, you are sending a message down into the oldest parts of your nervous system. You are showing the lizard brain that it can stand down. You are training it to understand that even if a dream presents a scenario of loss or a shadow that seems to chase you, it is not a signal to panic. It is an indifferent event. This is the essence of the Stoic indifferent applied to the subconscious. You are building a mental habit where the first response to a nightmare trigger is not a scream, but a shrug. You are creating a buffer zone between the stimulus of a scary dream and the response of your body. When the sage inhabits the amygdala, the physical reaction to fear begins to wither away. The heart stays steady, even when the mind wanders into dark places. This training requires you to look at your fears without the mask of drama. Most people feed their inner lizard by worrying about their worries, adding a second layer of pain to every difficult thought. You, instead, peel the labels off. If you have a recurring theme in your dreams that causes you to wake up in a state of alarm, you must confront that theme with the light of reason before the sun goes down. You take the most frightening part of that vision and you describe it in the most boring clinical terms possible. You strip away the scary and replace it with the factual. This process of cognitive reframing creates a new neural pathway. It tells the amygdala that this specific signal no longer requires a red alert. It is like training a guard dog to stop barking at the mailman. Eventually, the dog sees the approach and simply goes back to sleep. As you move deeper into the night, this training becomes your invisible armor. Your subconscious begins to realize that it no longer needs to produce cortisol to keep you safe. It learns that the inner citadel you built is truly unbreachable. Even if the theater of the mind produces a tragedy, the part of you that feels and reacts remains seated in a chair of stone, unmoved and untouched. This is the ultimate form of mental freedom, the ability to be at peace even when your own imagination tries to betray you. You are not suppressing the fear, you are outgrowing it. You are replacing a frantic, primitive reaction with a calm, philosophical response that has been hardwired through consistent practice. The result of this work is a profound shift in the quality of your recovery. When the lizard brain is no longer screaming at shadows, your body can finally enter the deep, restorative stages of sleep that are usually blocked by high stress. Your nervous system finally gets the message that the war is over. The sage within you doesn't just watch the gates. It sits in the engine room, ensuring that every gear turns with the rhythm of nature. You wake up not just rested, but empowered, because you have spent the last several hours proving to yourself that nothing, not even the darkest corners of your own mind, can shake your resolve. You have turned your most vulnerable state into a training ground for an unbreakable spirit. This quiet mastery over the amygdala ripples out into your waking life. Because you have learned to meet nightmare triggers with indifference, you find that the living nightmares of the day, the rude comments, the unexpected setbacks, the looming deadlines, lose their ability to trigger your panic. You have recalibrated your entire being to a higher frequency of calm. You are no longer a person who reacts, you are a person who chooses. The lizard brain is finally in service to the ruling faculty. As the night flows on, let this silence deepen. Trust in the sage you have placed at the center of your mind. Let the shadows come if they must, for they will find no one there to fight them. And in that lack of resistance, they will simply vanish into the peace of the night. The stillness of the room is now your laboratory, and the silence is the canvas where your future self is being designed. As the guard at the gate and the sage in the basement find their harmony, a deeper process begins to take hold, a mental filter that acts with the precision of a master craftsman. We often believe that thoughts are things that happen to us, like rain falling on our heads, but the ancient wisdom suggests a different truth. Between a thought appearing and a thought taking root in your soul, there is a tiny golden moment of choice. This is the space where you decide if a thought is true or if it is merely a ghost. Most people live their lives in a state of automatic yes, agreeing with every worry that whispers in their ear. But you are learning to hold every idea at arm's length, demanding to see its credentials before you allow it to enter the sanctuary of your sleep. This process of neuro-ascent is the practice of consciously withdrawing your agreement from irrationality. Your mind is constantly proposing stories to you. Tomorrow will be overwhelming. You aren't prepared. Or, what if everything falls apart? In the past, you might have accepted these as facts, allowing them to seep into your subconscious, where they grow into heavy chains of anxiety. Now you meet them with a specialized internal silence. When an anxious thought arises, you don't fight it with more noise. You simply withhold your assent. You look at the thought and say to yourself, this is an impression. It is a suggestion, not a command. By refusing to agree with the worry, you starve it of the fuel it needs to descend into the deeper layers of your mind. You are essentially creating a vacuum where anxiety used to live, replacing it with the steady weight of objective truth. To master this during the hours of rest, you must understand that the brain is a pattern-matching machine. If you allow an anxious thought to pass the filter of your conscious mind, your subconscious will immediately begin searching for more evidence to support it while you sleep. This is how a single spark of doubt turns into a night-long fire. To prevent this, you use the state of assent as a surgical tool. You categorize every incoming thought into two piles, things that are up to you and things that are not. If a thought concerns a future event you cannot control, you label it as indifferent and deny it entry. You do not give it the okay to stay. This isn't about being positive, it's about being accurate. You are training your neurons to stop firing in the direction of panic by refusing to validate the panic's existence. This filtering mechanism becomes more powerful as the body relaxes, because you are less distracted by the world outside. You can actually feel the moment a thought tries to hook you. You might feel a slight tightening in the chest or a shift in your breathing. This is the signal to execute neuro-ascent. You breathe into that tension and consciously release your grip on the idea. You tell the thought, I see you, but I do not accept you. This is like a physical movement of the mind, a deliberate no to the chaos. As you repeat this, you are actually reshaping the pathways of your brain. You are moving from a state of high reactivity to a state of philosophical stability. You are teaching your subconscious that it no longer needs to process these junk thoughts during the night, because you have already discarded them at the door. This mental discipline clears the path for a level of strength that is impossible for the average person to achieve. When the subconscious is not busy trying to solve fake problems created by unvetted thoughts, it can focus entirely on your recovery and your growth. It can work on the software update of your character. You begin to feel a sense of space inside your own head, a quiet, open room where there used to be a cluttered attic. This space is where your resilience lives. By using neuroassent, you are making sure that the only things that reach your deep mind are the truths that make you better. The knowledge of your own ability to endure, the love of the present moment, and the peace of a well-ordered mind. The beauty of this practice is that it requires no external tools. It is a power you carry within you at all times. It turns the period before sleep into a high-level training session. Each time you deny assent to a useless worry, you are doing a rep for your soul. You are getting stronger in the dark. As the night moves forward, this filter starts to work on its own, like an automated system. Your mind becomes so used to rejecting irrationality that the anxiety eventually stops trying to get in. It finds no purchase, no audience, and no agreement. You are left with a subconscious that is clear, powerful, and ready to rebuild you. In this state of mental purity, the transitions between your waking intentions and your sleeping reality become seamless. There is no friction, no conflict. You are at one with yourself. You have successfully filtered out the static of the world, leaving only the signal of your own strength. As you drift further, let the silence of your withheld assent be the blanket that covers you. You are safe, you are steady, and you are in command of the truth you choose to carry into the deep. The filter you have built is now humming with a quiet power, but as the night deepens, the pressure of the day attempts to find smaller cracks, trying to slip into the theater of your dreams, where you are most vulnerable. To truly protect the sanctuary of your recovery, you must establish a second line of defense, a mental barrier that stands guard over your rapid eye movement cycles. This is the stage where the brain processes emotions and files away the events of the day. If you enter this state with your inner citadel unprotected, the stresses of the day become the actors in your dreams, playing out scenarios of failure and frustration that drain your energy before the sun even rises. You are here to ensure that your citadel remains unbreachable, a place where the logic of the daylight is preserved in the silence of the dark. This mental barrier is constructed through the practice of intentional containment. During the day, your mind is like a wide-open field, taking in information from every direction. But as you prepare for the deeper stages of sleep, you must shrink that field until only the fortress remains. You do this by visualizing the boundaries of your own soul. You recognize that everything outside of your character, your reputation, your bank account, the opinions of others, exists outside the walls of the citadel. As the night watch begins, you mentally pull in the drawbridge. You are deciding that for the next several hours, nothing from the external world has permission to influence your internal state. You are creating a clean break between what happened and who you are. The strength of this barrier depends on your ability to depersonalize the day's events. Stress enters our dreams because we attach our identity to our problems. We don't just have a difficult task, we become a person who is failing. To prevent this from polluting your REM cycles, you must strip the I from the stressor. Before you slide into the deeper waters of sleep, you perform a final audit. You look at each lingering worry and you reframe it as an external object. It is a stone in the road, not a weight in your heart. By viewing your stressors as external indifference, you deny them the identity pass they need to enter the citadel. You are essentially telling your subconscious that these events are not important enough to be processed as part of your self-concept. As you descend into the dream state, this night watch functions as an automatic script. While your body is paralyzed in REM sleep, your mind is highly active, weaving stories from the fragments of your memory. Without a barrier, these stories are dictated by the cortisol left over from the day. But with the inner citadel established, your mind defaults to a state of philosophical resilience. Even if a stressful image appears in a dream, the night watch recognizes it as an external impression. You might find yourself dreaming of a difficult situation, but instead of panicking, you navigate it with the calm of a Stoic master. You are practicing virtue in your sleep. This is the highest level of reprogramming, when your involuntary mind begins to mirror your voluntary principles. This barrier also protects the physical quality of your rest. Stress in REM sleep leads to micro-awakenings and a fragmented nervous system. By blocking these stresses, you allow the brain to perform its glymphatic wash, clearing out the metabolic waste that accumulates during the day. You are literally cleaning your mind. The inner citadel isn't just a metaphor. It is a physiological necessity for peak performance. You are ensuring that when you wake, your ruling faculty isn't clogged with the debris of yesterday's anxieties. You are creating a fresh start every single night. The discipline of the night watch turns your sleep into a period of deep emotional regulation. You are teaching your brain that peace is its natural state, and that stress is a temporary visitor that must stay outside the walls. As you drift, feel the solidity of this barrier. It is made of your own reason, your own choices, and your own commitment to excellence. The noise of the world is now a muffled echo, far beyond the thick stone walls of your inner sanctuary. You are safe. You are contained. You are whole. Within this fortress, there is no one to please, no one to fight, and nothing to prove. There is only the steady, rhythmic breath of a soul that has found its center. The night watch is at its post, and the citadel is secure. You can now surrender to the deepest parts of the night, knowing that your strength is being preserved, refined, and made ready for the dawn. The world of movement has ceased, and the heavy velvet of sleep is now pressing against your eyelids. In this profound stillness, most people experience a total dissolution of the self, falling into a chaotic void where logic vanishes and the mind becomes a feather blown by the winds of random firing neurons. But for you, this descent is different. You are moving toward a rare and powerful state of cognitive architecture where the light of your reason does not flicker out just because your eyes have closed. There is a way to remain awake within the depths of the night, not with the restless energy of the body, but with the unyielding grip of a mind that knows its own power. You are entering a state of existence where your values are no longer just thoughts you have, but the very fabric of the space you inhabit. Subconscious catalepsy is the art of maintaining a firm grasp on your reality, even as the senses turn off. The ancient masters used the word catalepsis to describe a perception so clear and so grounded in truth that it could not be shaken by any external force. Normally, when we sleep, we lose this grip. We believe we are flying. We believe we are failing. We believe the impossible stories of the dream world. But when you anchor your subconscious in Stoic reason, you create a mental weight that keeps you upright in the storm of the night. You are training the hidden layers of your mind to recognize that while the body is paralyzed for its own safety, the core of your being, your character, is never off duty. You are holding on to the truth of your own resilience with the same intensity that a drowning man holds a life raft. As you transition into the deeper cycles of rest, you carry a single, unbreakable intention with you. You tell yourself, even in sleep, I am a creature of reason. This isn't a complex sentence to analyze. It is a fundamental law you are writing into your nervous system. By doing this, you are preventing the unselfing that usually happens in the dark. You are ensuring that the habits of mind you have built during the day, patience, courage, and clarity, become the default operating system of your dreams. If a dream tries to lure you into a state of panic or a sense of worthlessness, the firm grip of your reason instinctively tightens. The subconscious, now trained by hours of consistent daylight practice, rejects the falsehood. It stays gripped to the fact that you are capable and whole, regardless of the theater being projected on the inside of your skull. This state creates a bridge of continuity that most humans never experience. Usually there is a gap between the person you are at 3 p.m. and the person you are at 3 a.m. This gap is where self-doubt and ancient fears hide. Subconscious catalepsy closes that gap. It makes your strength a 24-hour reality. You are no longer restarting your character every morning. You are simply continuing a process that never stopped. Physically, this leads to a unique kind of neurological efficiency. Because your mind isn't wasting energy on irrational dream battles or emotional spirals, your brain can dedicate its full power to cellular repair and memory consolidation. You are essentially double-tasking. You are resting your physical shell while simultaneously hardening your mental armor. Achieving this requires a total surrender of the ego, but a total retention of the will. You let go of your name, your history, and your daily tasks, but you hold on to the how of your existence. You focus on the quality of your awareness rather than the objects of your thought. As the darkness wraps around you, feel the grip of your reason as a warm, steady glow at the center of your chest. It doesn't need to do anything. It just needs to be. It is a silent witness that remains unshaken. When you reach this state, sleep ceases to be a lapse in consciousness and becomes a profound exercise in being. You are mastering the art of remaining yourself, even when the self is all that is left. The morning that follows such a night is unlike any other. You do not wake up feeling like you have to find your footing. You wake up already standing. The grip you maintained through the night carries directly into your first waking breath. You have proven to yourself in the most vulnerable state possible that your reason is more than a tool. It is your nature. The world may be unpredictable, and the day may be long, but you are anchored in a strength that does not sleep. You have mastered the dark, and in doing so, you have made the light your own. The heavy curtain of deep rest is beginning to draw, but before you slip into the total silence of the void, you pass through the hall of mirrors. This is the stage of light sleep, where the mind is no longer anchored to the floor, but hasn't yet reached the deep ocean floor. Here, the brain begins to play a slideshow of images, what the ancients called fantasiae. These aren't just random pictures, they are the raw material of your emotions. Most people let these images loop without supervision, allowing flashes of past failures, future worries, or distorted faces to flicker by. But if you leave these images unvetted, they become the seeds of your mood for the coming day. You are here to install a filter, a way to audit the theater of your mind before the show becomes your reality. The Fantasia filter is the practice of looking at every mental image with a cold, investigative light. The Stoics knew that we are not disturbed by things, but by the view we take of them. In the twilight of light sleep, your brain often presents impressions that are exaggerated or false. You might see a looming shadow representing a difficult conversation, or a flash of a mistake that feels far larger than it was. To audit these, you must treat them as data, not as truth. As an image arises, you apply a mental label to it. You don't try to push it away, which only makes it loop more. You simply identify it. You say, "This is an image of a past event. It has no life." Or, "This is an image of a fear. It is a ghost with no body." By naming the image, you strip it of its emotional hook. This auditing process prevents the looping effect that often keeps the mind in a state of low-level agitation. When the brain presents a stressful image and you react with a jolt of anxiety, the brain assumes that image is important and places it back at the front of the line. This is how a single bad thought can dominate your entire night. By using the filter, you are breaking the cycle. When you meet a disturbing fantasia with indifference, the brain realizes it is trash data and discards it. You are teaching your subconscious to become a better editor. You are demanding a higher quality of internal vision. You are telling your mind that you will only grant staying power to images that reflect nature, virtue, and reality. As you refine this filter, you start to notice the difference between a pure impression and a value-laden one. A pure impression is just the facts: a person speaking, a door closing, a task to be done. The value-laden impression is the one that adds, "and this is terrible," or "I am in danger." The filter catches the added part. It allows the image of the task to pass, but it stops the feeling of being overwhelmed at the door. This creates a state of visual stillness. Even though images are still passing through your mind, they no longer move you. They are like a movie playing in a room while you are focused on something much deeper. This practice turns light sleep into a period of profound psychological cleaning. You are literally auditing your own imagination. By the time you reach the deeper stages of rest, your mental landscape is clear of debris. You have deleted the loops of regret and the slides of anxiety. You have replaced the chaotic noise of the day's leftovers with a curated space of calm. This isn't about forcing yourself to see happy things. It is about refusing to be fooled by false things. It is the commitment to truth, even in the dark. When you wake, the benefits of this audit are immediately apparent. You don't carry the emotional hangover of a night spent looping through stressful imagery. Your mind feels sharp, clean, and ready to engage with the world as it actually is, rather than how your worried imagination painted it. You have mastered the mirrors. You have seen through the illusions of the fantasiae. Now, as the images slow down and the colors fade into a single, steady point of light, you allow the filter to do its final work. The theater is empty, the screen is dark, and you are finally ready for the deep, unshakable strength of the void. The stillness has deepened, and the chatter of the day has finally dissolved into a cold, clear silence. You are no longer just resting your body. You are physically rebuilding the machinery of your mind. While the world sleeps in a state of passive drift, you are engaging in a form of mental engineering that the ancient masters called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Most people avoid the thought of difficulty running from the shadows of what could go wrong until those shadows catch them in the dark of night as unexpected anxiety. But you have learned a different way. You have learned that by looking directly at the storm while you are safe in the harbor, you change the way your brain is wired to handle the wind. This isn't just a philosophical exercise, it is a physical transformation of your neural architecture. When you practice the premeditation of difficulty, you are engaging in a controlled stress test for your soul. By calmly visualizing potential setbacks, losses, or obstacles as indifferent events, you are training your brain's threat detection system to stay offline. Normally, the brain sees a potential problem and triggers the alarm, flooding your system with chemicals that keep you in a state of high alert agitation. But when you look at these same problems through the lens of Stoic reason, you are creating a new path, a shortcut that bypasses the panic button and goes straight to the center of logic. As you lie in this quiet state, this neural remodeling is at its peak. Every time you imagine a difficult scenario and consciously meet it with the thought, "I can endure this," you are strengthening the physical connections in your prefrontal cortex. You are literally thickening the brakes of your brain. Over time, this practice of negative visualization stops being a conscious effort and becomes a structural reality. Your brain becomes less reactive to the unknown. The pathways that once carried fear become overgrown and weak from disuse, while the pathways of steady, calculated response become wide and fast. You are building a mind that is physically incapable of being easily startled. This structural change creates a profound shift in how your subconscious handles the night. Because your brain has been pre-conditioned to see hardship as something manageable, it no longer feels the need to produce background anxiety while you rest. The threat response system, which is usually hyperactive in the modern world, finally finds its off switch. You are teaching your neurons that safety doesn't come from a lack of problems, but from the presence of your own character. This is the ultimate form of self-mastery. You are using your own thoughts to rewrite the biological code of your courage. By the time the morning arrives, you aren't just a person who has slept. You are a person with an upgraded operating system. The challenges of the day haven't changed, but the you that faces them has. Your brain is now optimized for stability. You move through the world with a quiet confidence, not because you think everything will go perfectly, but because your very biology has been trained to remain calm when it doesn't. You have turned a mental practice into a physical shield. The forge of the night has done its work, and the iron of your resolve is now a part of your physical being. The transformation is silent, but the power it grants you is absolute. You are no longer at the mercy of your instincts. You are the master of your evolution. As you continue to drift in this state of deep repair, trust in the new pathways you have built. The architecture of your strength is now solid, permanent, and ready for whatever the dawn may bring. The boundaries between the solid world and the fluid landscape of the mind have vanished, and you are drifting now through the theater of the subconscious. In this place, the rules of physics do not apply, and the stories you tell yourself can become vivid, strange, and sometimes overwhelming. Most people feel like victims in their own dreams, tossed around by events they cannot explain and emotions they cannot escape. They wake up exhausted by a world that isn't even real. But even here, in the shifting sands of the deep night, there is a fundamental law that remains unbroken. It is the golden rule of the ancient teachers, the understanding that some things are up to us and some things are not. To apply this logic to your dreams is to find a seat of power in the middle of a storm. As you navigate the narratives your brain weaves while you rest, you are training your inner eye to look for the line of control. In the waking world, you know that you cannot control the weather, the traffic, or the words of others. You only control your own response. The secret to a truly resilient spirit is realizing that the same logic applies to the dream world. If your mind projects a scenario of loss, a maze with no exit, or a confrontation with a ghost from your past, these are the external events of the night. They are the stage and the props. They are not up to you. By recognizing this even as you sleep, you strip the dream of its ability to disturb your peace. You are teaching your subconscious that the content of the dream is an indifferent, while your character within the dream is everything. This practice creates a profound sense of psychological distance. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable images of the night, you stop the internal friction that leads to restless sleep. You allow the dream to play out like a play on a distant stage. You may be an actor in the play, but you are also the philosopher in the audience. If the dream narrative becomes difficult, your deep mind simply observes, "This is a projection I do not control, therefore it is nothing to me." This isn't about lucid dreaming where you try to change the sky's color. It is about Stoic dreaming, where you change your soul's reaction to whatever the sky looks like. You are maintaining your internal dignity in a world of illusions. By grounding your subconscious in this dichotomy, you are performing a deep-level cleanup of your emotional responses. You are training your nervous system to remain neutral when faced with chaotic stimuli. When you wake, this habit of mind remains perfectly intact. You find that you no longer panic when a real-life situation goes off script, because you have spent the last several hours practicing indifference toward the ultimate off-script environment, the dream state. You have mastered the art of distinguishing between the noise of life and the signal of your own will. You have turned the most irrational part of human existence, the dream, into a classroom for pure reason. This lesson transforms your sleep into a period of absolute mental sovereignty. You are no longer a leaf in the wind. You are the solid ground upon which the wind blows. You allow the brain to process whatever fragments and memories it needs to, but you refuse to let those fragments touch the core of your strength. You are at peace with the chaos, because you know where your power begins and ends. As you sink further into this logic, the narratives of the night become lighter and less demanding. They lose their weight because they have lost their audience. You are resting in the truth that your character is the only thing that is truly yours in this world or any other. The morning light will find you centered and immovable. You will wake with the quiet realization that if you can maintain your reason in the house of dreams, you can certainly maintain it in the house of reality. You have drawn the line of control in the dark, and it has made you invincible in the light. Now, as the last stories of the mind begin to play, you watch them with a calm smile, knowing that they have no power over the sage that lives within you. The physical world has retreated into a distant memory, and you are now suspended in the vast, quiet space of your own consciousness. As you move deeper into the night, you are learning to perform a rare act of mental separation, the art of becoming the observer of your own existence. Most people are so tightly wrapped in their own thoughts and feelings that they cannot see where the person ends and the problem begins. They are like someone drowning in a storm, unable to see the shore because they are the storm. But tonight, you are practicing a different way. You are stepping back from the you that is lying in the bed, the you that carries a name and a history, and you are viewing your life from the quiet, objective vantage point of a third-party observer. This is the practice of cognitive distancing, a technique that allows you to witness your own mind without being consumed by it. In the darkness, you mentally separate your reasoning faculty from your acting body. You look at the person resting under the blankets as if they were a stranger you have been tasked to care for. You see their fatigue, their heartbeats, and their lingering worries, but you see them with a calm, dispassionate eye. By looking at yourself from the outside, you realize that the things that felt so heavy an hour ago are simply events happening to a physical body. They are not happening to the observer. This shift in perspective is like moving from the chaotic center of a theater stage to the back row of the balcony. The drama is still there, but it no longer touches you. In this state of darkness, the separation becomes even more profound. You start to see your thoughts not as my thoughts, but as those thoughts. When a worry about the future floats by, you don't say, "I am worried." You say, "A worry is passing through that mind." This subtle change in language is the ultimate weapon against subconscious stress. It prevents the ego from sticking to the anxiety. You are essentially creating a space between the stimulus and your soul. This distance is where your strength is stored. While the sleeping self processes the day, the observing sage stays anchored in the eternal present, unmoved and unaffected by the narratives of the past or the ghosts of the future. This third-party perspective turns your sleep into a period of objective recovery. Because you are no longer identifying with your stressors, your nervous system can finally drop into a state of total neutrality. You are essentially giving yourself professional distance from your own life. This practice actually calms the brain's self-referential circuits, which are often overactive in people with chronic stress. You are quieting the default mode network, the part of the brain that usually spends the night ruminating on the self. By stepping out of the frame, you allow the mind to reset itself without the interference of your ego's constant demands. As the night flows on, let this distance grow. Feel the peace of being the silent witness. You are the sky, and everything else, the dreams, the body, the memories, is just the weather. The weather changes, the clouds move, and the storms break, but the sky remains vast, open, and untouched. You are resting in that vastness. You are the awareness that remains when the story of you is set aside. This is the highest form of rest, the rest of the spirit that no longer has to carry the burden of being a person. When the sun rises, you will step back into the role of your daily life, but you will do so with a new kind of freedom. You will remember that you are the director, not just the actor. You will face the challenges of the day with a quiet smile, knowing that whatever happens, the observer within you remains safe in the balcony, watching with interest but never with fear. You have mastered the art of the distance, and in that space you have found a strength that the world cannot take away. The night is long, but you are the stillness that contains it all. Continue to watch, continue to breathe, and let the distance be your sanctuary. The stillness has reached its deepest point, and you have moved beyond the reach of words and images. You are now standing in the very engine room of your biology, deep within the center of your brain, the limbic system, the seat of your oldest hungers, your deepest fears, and your most sudden impulses, is pulsing with the ancient energy of survival. This is the part of you that reacts before you can think, the part that clenches your jaw in anger or freezes your breath in fear. Most people believe this inner wildness is untamable, a storm they must simply endure. But the Stoics spoke of the Logos, a universal reason that weaves through all things, from the movement of the stars to the beating of a human heart. Your task tonight is to bring this reason down into the heat of your emotions, aligning your involuntary reactions with the steady rhythm of the natural law. Aligning the limbic system with the logos is the process of teaching your emotional brain that nothing in the external world is a true emergency. During the day, you have practiced seeing things as they are, stripping away the dramatic labels that lead to panic. Now, in the quiet of sleep, that practice begins to seep into your marrow. You are telling your deepest self that the universe is a coherent whole, and that you are a necessary, indestructible part of it. When your limbic system tries to spark a flame of anxiety about a perceived threat, you meet it with the cool water of this universal logic. You remind your nerves that even the most difficult event is part of the great flow of nature. By doing this, you are not suppressing your emotions, you are educating them. You are transforming a wild, reactive animal into a disciplined, peaceful guardian. This alignment creates a profound physical synchronization. As your emotional brain accepts the lead of your reason, the chaotic spikes in your heart rate and the shallow patterns of your breath begin to smooth out into a single, harmonic wave. You are achieving a state of stoic coherence, where your involuntary systems no longer fight against your conscious will. Your body stops preparing for a war that isn't happening. Instead, it uses that redirected energy to fortify your character. You are training your nervous system to view challenge as fuel and adversity as exercise. This is the secret of the vital elders. They have stopped the internal civil war between their feelings and their logic. They have made peace with the logos, and therefore their bodies are not worn down by the friction of constant, useless reaction. As you drift through this deep state of alignment, you feel a sense of cosmic duty in your very cells. You realize that by maintaining your calm, you are contributing to the order of the whole. You are a small mirror reflecting the massive silent order of the galaxy. This realization acts as a profound sedative for the ego. The limbic system, which usually obsesses over your personal safety and status, finally lets go. It recognizes that it is safe within the larger framework of nature. You are no longer a separate, frightened entity trying to survive. You are the logos expressing itself through a human form. In this realization, the last of your internal tension dissolves. The morning will bring a version of you that is fundamentally more stable. When you encounter a sudden crisis or a sharp word, your limbic system will no longer hijack your mind. Instead, it will wait for the signal of reason. You will find that your first response to stress is a deep, natural breath and a clear, objective thought. You have rewired the basement of your brain to reflect the wisdom of the heights. You have brought the logic of the universe into the pulse of your blood. The wild animal within you has finally found its master, and in that service it has found its true peace. The night is silent, the stars are steady, and your heart is now beating in time with the law of all things. Sleep now, in the perfect strength of this alignment. You are exactly where you are meant to be. The day is behind you now, a completed chapter that no longer requires your participation. Yet, for most, the day does not truly end when the sun goes down. It lingers in the mind like a cluttered desk, filled with unfinished conversations, small resentments, and the heavy weight of things left undone. This mental clutter acts as a parasitic drain on your recovery, keeping the ego engaged in battles that have already been fought. To achieve a state of true subconscious strength, you must perform a neural wipe, a systematic closing of the day's files that the ancient Pythagoreans mastered long before the advent of modern psychology. This is not a moment for judgment or guilt. It is a clinical process of deletion, ensuring that the only things you carry into the deep night are the lessons, not the baggage. The evening audit is a three-part interrogation of your own actions. As you lie in the quiet, you walk backward through the hours of the day, from the moment you prepared for bed back to the moment you first opened your eyes. You ask yourself, what did I do well? What did I do wrong? And what did I leave undone? By viewing your day in reverse, you break the narrative flow of the ego. You stop seeing yourself as the hero or the victim of a story and start seeing your actions as data. When you identify a mistake, you don't dwell on it with shame. You extract the logic, the why it happened, and then you mentally delete the emotional residue. You are telling your brain, the lesson is recorded, the file is closed. This prevents the subconscious from looping on that mistake during your REM cycles, a process that usually leads to restless, anxious dreaming. This practice functions as a psychological disk cleanup. Your ego thrives on unresolved tension and the temporary files of social standing and personal pride. By answering these three questions with total honesty, you are stripping the ego of its fuel. When you acknowledge what was left undone, you make a rational pact to address it tomorrow, which signals to the brain's executive center that it can stop sending reminder alerts in the form of stress. You're essentially clearing the cache of your mind. This leaves the subconscious free to perform its most vital task, the deep consolidation of virtue. Instead of wasting the night processing a rude comment from a coworker, your mind is free to harden your resolve and integrate the Stoic principles you've practiced during the daylight. The physical sensation of this neural wipe is one of profound lightness. As each file is closed and deleted, you may feel a literal unclenching of the muscles in your face and shoulders. You are releasing the tension of the self. The Pythagoreans knew that a soul cannot be at peace if it is still litigating the past. By finishing the day before you finish the light, you ensure that your sleep is a state of pure presence. You are no longer the person who struggled at 10 a.m. You are the awareness that remains when all those struggles have been filed away. You are entering the night with a clean slate, a mind that is empty of noise and full of potential. As you finish your review, let the last thought be one of completion. The day is dead. It has no more power over you. You have taken the gold from the experience and left the dross behind. There is nothing left to solve, nothing left to defend, and nothing left to prove. Your ruling faculty has signed off on the day's work. In this emptiness, you find the ultimate strength, the ability to be completely still. You are now ready to drift into the deep, unburdened by the ego, moving into a rest that is as clear and as vast as the night sky itself. The mind is a master of drifting, a kite in a hurricane that often loses its string the moment the lights go out. To stay grounded in the face of the unknown, you need a tether, not of thought, but of feeling. In the quiet of the night, your senses are your most direct path to the soul. While the intellect might struggle with the vastness of loving your fate during a difficult season, your body understands the language of touch and pressure. You are about to turn the very objects around you into sacred reminders of your own resilience, creating a physical bridge between the comfort of your bed and the iron-willed philosophy of the sages. Mnemonic anchoring is the art of linking a deep philosophical truth to a repetitive physical sensation. The Stoics practiced amor fati, the love of fate, which is the radical acceptance of everything that happens, not as a burden, but as a necessity. To make this subconscious, you choose a physical anchor in your sleep environment. Perhaps it is the heavy, comforting weight of the blanket against your chest, or the cool, smooth texture of the pillow against your cheek. As you settle in, you consciously pair this sensation with the concept of fate. Each time you feel the weight of that blanket, you tell your subconscious, "This weight is my life, and I embrace it fully." You are training your nervous system to associate physical pressure with emotional peace. This practice works because the body is the gatekeeper of the subconscious. By repeatedly linking the feeling of your environment to the thought of amor fati, you are creating a conditioned response. Eventually, you won't need to think the words at all. The mere sensation of lying down and feeling the mattress support your spine will trigger a wave of total acceptance throughout your nervous system. You are teaching your brain that the weight of existence is not something to be pushed away, but something that provides warmth and security. You are turning the gravity of the world into a hug rather than a burden. This prevents the resistive thoughts, the "I wish things were different" loops, from gaining any traction in your mind. As you drift closer to sleep, these anchors become your silent guardians. If you happen to stir in the middle of the night and a flash of anxiety strikes, your body will instinctively find the anchor. You will feel the blanket, and before your mind can even formulate a worry, your nervous system will recall the amor fati command. The pressure of the fabric becomes a signal that everything is exactly as it should be. You are essentially hard-coding your philosophy into your bedding. You are making your rest an act of profound agreement with the universe. This is how you build a character that is unshakable. You make your values as real and as tangible as the world around you. The result is a deep, gravitational calm. You are no longer fighting the night or the tomorrow that follows it. You are anchored in the present, held down by the weight of your own choice to love whatever comes. The friction between your desires and your reality disappears, replaced by a smooth, heavy stillness. You are tucked in by the Logos itself. In this state, your body can finally release the last of its defensive tension, knowing that it is supported by a fate it has chosen to embrace. The anchor is set, the ship is steady, and you are free to descend into the deep without fear of drifting away. When you wake and throw back the covers, the anchor remains. You will carry that sense of supported weight into your day, meeting every challenge with the same grounded acceptance you practiced in the dark. You have learned to love the weight of the world because you have learned how to use it to stay centered. The blanket was just the beginning. Now, the whole world is your anchor. The darkness has a way of magnifying the future, turning the hours of rest into a workshop for ghosts. Most people spend their nights future sculpting, using their imagination to carve out endless scenarios of what might go wrong. This is the what-if trap, a frantic attempt to control the uncontrollable by rehearsing tragedy. It keeps the mind in a state of high-voltage tension, as if by worrying enough you could build a wall against fate. But tonight, you are going to flip the script. You are going to take that creative energy and use it to build a bridge of acceptance instead of a prison of anxiety. You are moving from a what-if that paralyzes to a so what that empowers. Inverting the what-if starts with a radical honesty about the nature of time. The future does not exist yet. It is a series of possibilities, none of which have the power to touch your character unless you allow them to. When an anxious thought whispers, "What if I fail?" or "What if they leave?" you do not turn away in fear. Instead, you walk directly toward the image. You complete the story. You look at the worst-case scenario, and you apply the Stoic lens of indifference. You ask yourself, if this happens, will I still have my ability to choose virtue? Will I still have my reason? The answer is always yes. By following the what-if to its very end, you find that the monster at the end of the tunnel is made of smoke. This practice is the ultimate antidote to the brain's negativity bias. Your mind is naturally wired to prioritize threats, which is why it loops on disaster scenarios during the quiet of the night. By consciously inverting these thoughts, you are performing a form of cognitive exposure therapy. You are telling your subconscious, I have seen the worst and I am still here. This doesn't mean you want bad things to happen. It means you have realized that your strength is not dependent on things going your way. You are replacing the shaky foundation of hope with the solid bedrock of readiness. When you accept all outcomes in advance, you strip the future of its teeth. You can finally rest because there is no longer a surprise that can destroy you. As you lie there, feel the physical shift that happens when you stop fighting the future. Future sculpting feels like a tight, hot knot in the center of the chest. Acceptance feels like a long, cool breath. Each time a what-if arises, you meet it with a steady internal shrug. You are teaching your nervous system that uncertainty is not a signal for alarm, but a natural state of the universe. You are becoming a person who can sleep in the middle of a storm because you have already made peace with the possibility of the ship sinking. This is not passivity. It is the highest form of psychological preparedness. It is the strength of a soul that has decided that no matter what the dawn brings, it will meet it with dignity. The loops of anxiety begin to lose their momentum. Without your resistance to feed them, they simply run out of energy and fade into the background. Your subconscious, finally freed from the labor of trying to solve the future, can return to the task of the present, the deep, silent rebuilding of your spirit. You are no longer a sculptor of shadows. You are a master of the now. The future will come in its own time, but tonight it is not invited into your bed. You are resting in the total, unshakable peace of a mind that has said yes to whatever fate has in store. The night is vast and the possibilities are endless, but your center is fixed. You have inverted the fear, and in its place you have found a quiet, iron-clad certainty. Sleep now, knowing that you are ready for everything and afraid of nothing. The walls of your room are beginning to feel less like a cage and more like a thin membrane ready to be transcended. As you lie there, your mind often feels trapped in the microscope of the self, where every tiny irritation is magnified until it fills your entire field of vision. A single sharp word from a stranger or a minor mistake at work becomes a mountain that blocks out the sun. To find true rest, you must change your lens. You must move from the microscope to the telescope. The ancient sages practiced what they called the view from above, a mental journey that takes you out of your heavy, tired body and pulls you up into the cold, silent theater of the stars. This perspective shift begins with a gradual expansion of your awareness. You start by seeing yourself from the ceiling, watching the figure in the bed as if it were a character in a distant story. Then you move higher, rising above the roof, the neighborhood, and the city. You see the lights of thousands of homes, each one filled with people carrying their own mountains that are, from this height, just tiny specks of dust. You continue to rise until the earth itself is a blue marble hanging in the blackness. From this stellar height, the emergencies of your afternoon and the catastrophes of your ego become so small they are invisible. You are shrinking your problems down to the size of atoms, not by denying they exist, but by acknowledging their true scale in the face of the infinite. This isn't just a visualization, it is a profound act of cognitive resizing. Your brain's emotional center, the amygdala, is designed to react to immediate close-up threats. By forcing the mind to adopt a cosmic perspective, you are essentially dialing down the gain on your stress response. It is neurologically impossible to feel a high-intensity panic about a missed deadline when you are looking at the birth and death of galaxies. You are training your subconscious to stop mistaking the local for the universal. You are reminding your nerves that the vast majority of what keeps you awake at night is a temporary ripple on a very deep, very old ocean. This realization acts as a powerful perspective shifter that resets your internal barometer of what truly matters. As you drift through this stellar space, you feel a sense of sympathia, the Stoic understanding that you are a small but vital part of a massive, interconnected whole. Your problems are atoms, yes, but so are you. There is a strange, deep comfort in being small. It removes the crushing weight of having to be the center of the universe. You are no longer responsible for carrying the world on your shoulders. You are simply a passenger on a beautiful ancient journey. This cosmic humility is the ultimate sedative for a racing mind. It allows the ego to finally let go of its grip because it realizes there is nothing to defend at this altitude. The physical sensation of this practice is one of profound expansion. Your breath slows to match the rhythm of the tides. Your pulse settles into the steady beat of the cosmos. You are no longer a person in a room. You are an awareness floating in the void, untouched by the friction of the earth. The view from above turns your sleep into a period of total liberation. You are leaving the smallness of your life behind and entering the vastness of your nature. By the time you reach the deep night, your problems haven't just been solved, they have been transcended. They have lost their weight because they have lost their context. When you return to the world of the morning, you will carry a piece of this distance with you. You will look at the chaos of the day and remember the silence of the stars. You will find that you can move through the atoms of your daily tasks without being overwhelmed by them because you have seen the big picture. You have mastered the scale of your own life. You are resting now in the center of the infinite, safe, small, and perfectly at peace. The world outside is rarely silent, but the sanctuary you are building is not dependent on the cooperation of the street or the neighbors. Most people treat silence as a fragile glass ornament that any sudden noise, a barking dog, a passing car, the hum of a distant machine, can shatter into pieces. When a sound breaks through their peace, they react with a jolt of irritation, adding a layer of mental noise to the external one. They don't just hear the sound, they judge it. They label it as an intrusion, a violation, or a mistake. This judgment is what truly wakes you up. Tonight, you are going to practice the art of symphonic indifference, turning the chaotic noise of the world into a neutral backdrop that has no power to move your soul. This practice begins with the realization that a sound is nothing more than a vibration in the air, an indifferent movement of atoms. The ancient teachers taught that our distress comes not from the event itself, but from the story we tell about it. When you hear a noise while trying to sleep, your ruling faculty has a choice. You can say, "That noise shouldn't be happening," which creates friction and heat in the mind. Or you can apply the logic of the logos and say, "The world is moving according to its nature." You stop categorizing sounds as good, the rain, or bad, the traffic. Instead, you listen to the city as if it were a symphony where every instrument, no matter how discordant, belongs to the whole. You are training your ear to stop hooking onto the specifics of a sound and instead let it wash over you like a wave. By adopting this indifference, you are performing a deep-level habituation of your nervous system. Your brain has a specialized filter called the reticular activating system, which decides what is important enough to wake you up. If you label a noise as a problem, your brain marks it as a threat and stays on high alert. But when you consciously decide that all ambient noise is indifferent, you are reprogramming that filter. You are telling your brain that the car alarm or the heavy footsteps in the hallway are not signals of danger, but merely the music of existence. Over time, your brain stops sending the alarm signal. You find that you can sleep through a storm of noise because you have removed the emotional spike that the sound used to carry. You are becoming a person who is at peace with the world exactly as it is, not as you wish it to be. This turns the night into a training ground for your patience. Each sound that reaches your ear is a small test of your Stoic resolve. Instead of resenting the noise, you welcome it as a rep for your character. You listen to the hum of the world and you feel your own stillness in contrast to it. The louder the world becomes, the deeper your internal silence grows. You are not trying to block the sound out. You are simply refusing to give it any value. You are realizing that your peace is located in a place that no decibel level can reach. This is the ultimate form of mental autonomy, the ability to remain centered even when the environment is chaotic. As you drift, the symphony of the night begins to blur. The individual sounds lose their names and their edges. They become a single steady vibration, a white noise for the soul. You are no longer fighting the environment. You are harmonizing with it. The physical tension that usually follows a sudden noise disappears, replaced by a smooth, rhythmic acceptance. You are resting in the heart of the city, in the heart of the world, and yet you are completely alone in your citadel. The world can be as loud as it wants. It cannot force its way into your mind without your consent. When the morning comes, this indifference will follow you. You will find that you are less reactive to the noise of life, the complaints, the interruptions, the sudden shifts in plan. You have learned that you don't need a silent world to have a silent mind. You have mastered the ear, and in doing so, you have mastered the peace that exists beyond all sound. Sleep now, in the middle of the song, knowing that every note is exactly where it needs to be. The light has fully withdrawn, and you are left with the most profound transition of all. Every night, we perform an act that, if we saw it from the outside, would seem terrifying. We lay down our defenses, we close our eyes, and we let our conscious I vanish into the dark. We surrender our control, our memories, and our very existence to the void. The ancients called sleep the younger brother of death. Most people spend their lives running from this reality, filling the silence with distractions because the idea of non-existence feels like a cold wind against the soul. But for the seeker of strength, this nightly disappearance is not a threat. It is the ultimate rehearsal. By viewing sleep as a minor death, you are stripping the fear from the inevitable, turning the dark into a familiar friend. This practice is the art of dying before you die. As you lie in the stillness, you mentally rehearse the final letting go. You look at your body, the heavy limbs, the slow breath, and you recognize it as a temporary vessel that you are borrowing from nature. You realize that one day you will close your eyes and the eye will not return to the body. By leaning into this thought right now, you are performing a deep-level desensitization of your subconscious. You are telling your lizard brain that the end of consciousness is not a catastrophe. It is a return to the state you were in before you were born. You are making peace with the silence. When you stop fearing the big death, the small deaths of daily life, the loss of a job, the end of a relationship, the fading of youth, lose their power to haunt your dreams. During this meditation, you practice the total surrender of the ego. You mentally set aside your name, your achievements, and your possessions. You ask yourself, if I did not wake up tomorrow, would the core of my character have been enough? This isn't a morbid thought. It is a clarifying fire. It burns away the trivial and leaves only what is essential. By treating each night as a final completion of your life's work, you ensure that you enter sleep with no unpaid debts to your own soul. You are teaching your subconscious that you have lived enough. This removes the frantic, underlying, not yet feeling that keeps so many people in a state of low-level insomnia. You are resting in the grace of a finished masterpiece. This shift in perspective turns your bed into an altar of truth. You are training your nervous system to be comfortable with the absence of the self. Physically, this leads to a state of profound, ego-less relaxation. The muscles of the face, which often carry the mask of our identity even in sleep, finally melt away. You are no longer someone trying to rest. You are simply nature returning to itself. This lack of resistance allows for a depth of sleep that is unreachable for those who are still clutching their identity in the dark. You are moving beyond the I and into the all. When the morning light hits your eyes and the resurrection occurs, you wake with a vitality that is unknown to the fearful. You realize that you have been given another day as a pure gift, a bonus on top of a life already completed. You move through the world with the freedom of someone who has already faced the dark and found nothing to fear. You are no longer a slave to the instinct of self-preservation at all costs. You have rehearsed the end, and you have found that your character remains even when the world fades. You are walking through the day with the quiet, ironclad peace of one who is truly ready for anything. The night is a gentle teacher, and the void is a soft bed. Let go of the I, and find the strength that exists in the stillness. You are safe in the arms of the nature that made you. The mind is often held hostage not by reality, but by the labels we attach to it. In the silence of your room, certain words carry a weight that feels physical. Words like failure, rejection, loneliness, or poverty act as triggers for the subconscious, sending ripples of tension through your body the moment they surface. These words are the teeth of your anxiety. They bite because you have given them a specific, sharp meaning. But the Stoics understood that language is a human invention, a set of symbols we use to categorize the world. To find true strength, you must learn to strip the terror from the vocabulary of your soul. You are going to take the words that keep you awake and turn them back into what they truly are: empty sounds in the dark. Semantic satiation is a neurological phenomenon where the repetition of a word causes it to lose its meaning and become nothing more than a series of strange noises. When you encounter a word that triggers your fear, you usually flee from it, which only reinforces its power. Tonight, you are going to lean into it. As you lie in the stillness, take that one terrifying word, the one that has been looping in your mind, and begin to repeat it slowly, deliberately, and objectively. You are not thinking about the consequences of the word. You are simply observing the mechanics of the sound. You notice the way your tongue hits your teeth, the way the air leaves your throat, the way the vowels stretch and the consonants click. As you repeat the word, something remarkable begins to happen. The bridge between the sound and the emotion starts to crumble. The word failure stops being a life-shattering event and starts being a collection of syllables. Failure. You repeat it 20 times, 50 times, 100 times. The meaning drains out of it like water from a cracked jar. Eventually, the word sounds foreign, even slightly absurd. You are witnessing the death of a label. By saturating your brain with the sound, you are boring your nervous system into submission. The amygdala, which was once on high alert at the mention of the word, eventually stops reacting entirely. You have turned a monster into a vibration. This practice is a form of linguistic surgery. You are cutting the nerves that connect your language center to your fear center. The Stoics practiced a similar technique by describing high-status items or terrifying events in the most basic physical terms, stripping the purple robes of an emperor down to sheep's wool dyed with the blood of a shellfish. By doing this with your fears, you are performing a demasking. You are realizing that the words you fear are just ghosts made of air. This prevents the subconscious from using these words to build nightmare scenarios during the night. If the word has no meaning, it has no power to haunt you. This creates a profound sense of mental autonomy. You are no longer at the mercy of the voice in your head. You have learned that you are the one who grants meaning to language, and you are the one who can take it away. The silence that follows this exercise is not a fearful silence. It is a clean, empty silence. You have cleared the viral words from your system, leaving your subconscious free to rest in a state of pure, wordless being. You are the master of your own definitions. When you wake, the word may still exist in the world, but it no longer exists as a weapon against your peace. You can hear it spoken by others or see it on a screen, and it will remain just a sound, just a shape. You have neutralized the threat at the level of the neuron. You are resting now in a space beyond labels, where the only thing that remains is the steady, silent reality of your own existence. The stillness of the night is often mistaken for an absence, but in reality, it is a presence, a living, breathing connection to the machinery of the universe. Most people use their breath as a tool for comfort, a way to chase away the jitters of a long day or to force the body into a state of artificial calm. They treat the breath as a servant of their desires. But tonight, you are going to elevate the breath to its true status. You are going to use it as a tether to the Logos, the underlying reason that governs the rising of the sun and the movement of the tides. You are not breathing to relax, you are breathing to agree. Each inhale and each exhale is a rhythmic affirmation that you are a part of a nature that never makes a mistake. This practice is the art of synchronizing your internal rhythm with the external law. As you lie in the dark, you stop trying to control the breath and instead begin to observe it as an expression of universal physics. You notice the pressure of the air as it enters, the pause at the top, the effortless release, and the stillness at the bottom. This cycle is a micro-reflection of the cycles of life: growth, peak, decay, and emptiness. By following this rhythm with your full awareness, you are telling your subconscious, I am in flow with the law of change. You are anchoring your soul to the one thing that is always constant, the movement of nature itself. When you breathe with this philosophical intention, you are performing a deep-level stabilization of your nervous system. You aren't just lowering your heart rate, you are removing the fear of the future that causes shallow, erratic breathing. You realize that as long as the breath is moving, you are being supported by the universe. This perspective turns the physical act into a spiritual anchor. If a thought of worry arises, you don't fight it with logic. You simply return to the tether. You match the worry to the exhale and let it leave your body as part of the natural decay phase of the cycle. You are training your cells to understand that tension is a violation of nature's law, while the rhythmic flow is its fulfillment. This tethering process creates a state of functional indifference. You are no longer gasping for life or holding your breath in fear of what comes next. You are breathing with the dignity of a mountain. The physical sensation of the air becomes a reminder of your own indestructibility. Even in sleep, the breath continues, loyal, steady, and governed by a wisdom far greater than your ego. By consciously aligning with this wisdom before you drift off, you ensure that your subconscious remains tethered to reality throughout the night. You prevent the mind from drifting into the hypoxic anxieties of the imagination. As the night flows on, let the breath become the only clock you follow. There is no too fast or too slow. There is only the rhythm of the moment. You are resting in the heartbeat of the world. The friction of the self has dissolved into the smooth, rising and falling tide of the Logos. You are safe, not because the world has changed, but because you have finally stopped resisting the way the world breathes. When you wake, the tether remains. You will find that in moments of stress during the day, your body will instinctively return to this rhythmic affirmation. You won't just be taking a deep breath. You will be remembering your place in the order of things. You have mastered the tether, and in doing so, you have found a peace that is as steady as the air itself. The walls of your identity are starting to thin, and the name you have carried all day is beginning to feel like a heavy cloak that no longer fits. Most people enter sleep by dragging their entire biography into the bed with them. Their titles, their failures, their bank accounts, and their reputations. They try to rest while still clutching the eye with both hands, wondering why their dreams feel like a continuation of their daytime stress. But the Stoic knows that the ego is the primary source of all friction. It is the part of you that feels insulted, the part that feels inadequate, and the part that fears the future. Tonight, before you step into the vast ocean of the subconscious, you are going to practice the ultimate act of mental hygiene. You are going to vaporize the I. This visualization is a systematic dismantling of the self. As you lie in the stillness, start by focusing on the edges of your physical body. Feel where your skin meets the sheets. Now, mentally begin to soften those edges. See your social roles, the employee, the parent, the friend, as thin layers of mist rising off your skin and dissolving into the dark air of the room. They are temporary masks, and you are laying them down. Next, look at your history, your memories, and your plans. See them as small particles of dust, losing their magnetic pull and floating away into the infinite space around you. You are not deleting them. You are simply recognizing that they are not the core of your being. You are watching the solid I turn into a cloud of atoms. As the visualization deepens, you reach the center, the ruling faculty. But even here, you let go of the ownership of your thoughts. You stop saying my mind and start recognizing the mind. You are transitioning from a solid, heavy object into a fluid, transparent awareness. This is the state of vaporization. When the ego is dissolved, there is nothing left for anxiety to hook onto. A worry cannot hurt a mist. A resentment cannot burn a shadow. You are creating a state of total psychological invulnerability by refusing to be a target. By entering the dream state as a nobody, you ensure that the stories of the night have no power to disturb you. You are simply the space in which the dreams happen, not the victim of the dreams themselves. This practice performs a profound reset on your neurological threat response system. Most of our daily stress is ego stress, threats to our status or our self-image. By vaporizing the ego before sleep, you are giving your brain a much-needed break from the labor of self-defense. You are allowing your nervous system to drop into its most restorative state, where the energy usually spent on maintaining the I is redirected toward deep cellular healing and the strengthening of your character. You wake up feeling not just rested, but renewed, as if you have been born again without the baggage of yesterday. The physical sensation of this vaporization is a feeling of immense, cool vastness. You are no longer confined to the dimensions of your body. You are as wide as the room, as deep as the night, and as silent as the stars. The I has vanished, and in its place is a steady, indestructible peace. You are ready now to move into the deep, not as a person with a story, but as a soul with a purpose. When the sun rises and the world calls your name again, you will put the cloak of the I back on to perform your duties, but it will feel lighter. You will remember that it is just a garment, not the person. You have mastered the art of the dissolve, and in the emptiness of the ego, you have found the fullness of your strength. The day is a marketplace that has spent the last 16 hours trying to sell you things you do not need, outrages, comparisons, and trivialities that bankrupted your peace before the sun even set. Most people enter the night with a bankrupt mind, having spent their precious attention on every passing distraction and every minor irritation. They lie in bed with a negative balance, still trying to pay off the emotional debts of a day that is already over. But strength begins with the realization that your attention is the most valuable currency you own. It is a finite resource, a limited budget of mental energy. Tonight, you are going to become a strict accountant of your own soul, refusing to spend a single cent of your awareness on anything that does not serve your virtue. Cognitive budgeting is the practice of auditing your mental spend before the night takes over. As you lie in the stillness, you look at the thoughts competing for your attention. Each worry, each replay of a conversation, and each plan for tomorrow is asking for a withdrawal from your account. You meet them with the cold eye of a Stoic auditor. You ask, "Is this worth my rest? Does this thought have the right to occupy my mind while my body heals?" If a thought is about something you cannot control, you mark it as an unauthorized transaction. You refuse to pay. By consciously denying the charge, you preserve your mental energy for the only thing that deserves it, the maintenance of your inner citadel. This process is a psychological freeze on the accounts of the ego. Your ego is a big spender. It wants to invest in grievances and buy into the drama of the self. But as you prepare for the deeper cycles of sleep, you are declaring a state of emergency. You are telling your subconscious that for the next several hours, the budget is closed to the external world. You are allocating your currency exclusively to the internal work of recovery, resilience, and the consolidation of wisdom. This isn't about ignoring your life. It's about recognizing that you cannot solve a problem with a depleted mind. By saving your attention now, you are ensuring you have the capital to face the world with strength tomorrow. Physically, this budgeting creates a profound sense of neurological thrift. When you stop spending energy on useless mental loops, your brain's operating costs drop significantly. The metabolic energy usually wasted on stress hormones is instead diverted to the glymphatic system, the brain's waste clearance mechanism that works only during deep sleep. You are literally paying for a cleaner mind with the attention you refuse to waste on worry. This leads to a level of morning clarity that feels like a clean financial slate. You wake up rich in focus, ready to spend your day on things that actually matter. As the night deepens, let the balance of your mind grow steady and still. There are no more debts to pay, no more transactions to monitor. You have closed the books on the day. You are resting in the wealth of your own self-mastery, knowing that your attention is yours and yours alone. The world can wait for the morning. Tonight, you are keeping your treasure for yourself. When you wake, you will find that you move through the world with a new kind of selectivity. You will see the distractions of the day for what they are, bad investments, and you will simply choose not to buy in. You have mastered the budget of the mind, and in doing so, you have secured a wealth of peace that the world cannot inflate or destroy. The air in the room has grown heavy with a quiet certainty, and the distractions of the outside world have finally lost their grip. As you settle into this deeper layer of consciousness, you may feel the urge to speak to yourself, to plant a final thought that will bloom in the dark. In our modern world, we are told to use affirmations to manifest things, to tell ourselves we are wealthy, successful, or popular. But these are fragile anchors. They depend on the world's permission, and they keep the subconscious in a state of grasping. To build a strength that cannot be broken, your internal commands must shift from the world of having to the world of being. You are not here to acquire a lifestyle. You are here to command your will. Affirmations of the will are not about convincing yourself that the world will give you what you want. They are about declaring who you will be regardless of what the world gives you. While the body rests, the subconscious is most receptive to the core maxims of your character. Instead of affirming, "I will be successful tomorrow," which is not entirely in your control and creates a hidden tension of performance, you affirm, "I will be unshakable tomorrow." Instead of saying, "I will be loved," you say, "I will be kind." By focusing on virtue, on the quality of your own choices, you are anchoring your mind to the only thing that is truly yours. This removes the subconscious anxiety of the outcome and replaces it with the peace of the process. You are giving your mind a job it can actually do. This distinction is vital for the quality of your nervous system's rest. When you affirm an acquisition, your brain stays in a state of seeking, keeping the dopamine circuits active as it scans for ways to get what you've asked for. This is a restless energy, but when you affirm a virtue, you are calling upon your ruling faculty. You are telling your neurons to align with a state of internal completion. You are affirming that your worth is already present, located entirely within your own capacity to choose reason over impulse. This triggers a deep parasympathetic response. The mind stops hunting and starts homing. It retreats into the inner citadel where nothing is lacking and nothing is needed from the outside. As you drift, let these affirmations of the will become a slow, rhythmic pulse in the back of your mind. You are telling your deeper self, "I am enough for any fate. I am the master of my impressions. I am the steady center of the storm." These are not wishes. They are descriptions of your true nature. You are hard-coding the software of the sage into your subconscious. This ensures that even in the chaotic logic of a dream, your first instinct is one of dignity and calm. You are training your soul to default to strength. You are realizing that true power isn't the ability to change the world, but the ability to remain unchanged by it. This practice turns the final moments of the day into a formal installation of character. You are choosing the lens through which you will see the sun when it rises. Because you have focused on virtue, the one thing the world cannot take away, you enter sleep with a sense of absolute security. There is no loss that can threaten a person whose goal is simply to be excellent in their own choices. You are resting in the safety of your own integrity. The ego's need for more has been silenced by the soul's realization that it already has enough within its own will. When you wake, you won't be looking for signs that your manifestations have come true. Instead, you will simply be the person you commanded yourself to be in the dark. You will meet the day with a quiet, ironclad confidence because you know that your strength is not a result of your circumstances, but a result of your will. You have mastered the internal command. You are resting now in the highest form of wealth, the wealth of a mind that is at peace with itself. The daylight has surrendered its hold, and the busy machinery of your conscious effort has finally gone quiet. In the world of the sun, you were the student, carefully checking your thoughts, struggling to stay patient, and reminding yourself of the lessons of the ancients. But as you sink into the cooling depths of the night, a transformation occurs. You are no longer the one trying to learn. You are becoming the vessel for the lesson itself. While your body lies inactive, a silent, powerful process begins within the deep mind. You are handing the reins over to the passive sage, that part of your subconscious that is always watching, always recording, and finally ready to model the perfection you have been chasing all day. This modeling is the art of internal imitation. The Stoics often advised that we should keep a model of virtue in our minds, asking ourselves in every situation, what would a master do? In the quiet of the night, your subconscious takes this advice literally. It stops looking at the world outside and begins to organize itself around the ideal image of the sage, the person who is undisturbed by pain, uninflated by praise, and anchored in the absolute truth of nature. Because your ego is no longer there to argue or doubt, your neurons are free to simulate this state of perfect calm. You are essentially shadowing a version of yourself that is already wise, already strong, and already at peace. During this period of inactivity, the brain undergoes a process of consolidation where it replays the virtuous moments of your day, but it does so through the lens of the sage. It takes a moment where you felt a spark of anger and edits the response, smoothing out the reaction and reinforcing the calm. This is the subconscious working as a master sculptor, chipping away the rough edges of your temperament while you sleep. By the time you reach the deep, non-REM cycles, your mind is no longer just resting, it is rehearsal. It is building the neural pathways of a person who does not flinch. You are training your involuntary self to react with the dignity of a king, even when no one is watching. This passive modeling creates a profound shift in your default personality. Most people wake up as the same person they were yesterday, carrying the same fears and the same reactive habits. But when you invite the passive sage into your sleep, you wake up as someone slightly more refined. You find that your first reaction to a morning crisis is no longer a spike of cortisol, but a quiet, internal distance. This is because your subconscious spent the last 8 hours practicing a higher way of being. You have replaced the habit of the victim with the logic of the master. You are realizing that strength isn't something you do. It is something you become through the silent work of the night. As you drift further into the stillness, let the image of the sage be the last thing you hold. See this version of yourself, immovable as a mountain, clear as a mountain stream, and then let go. You don't need to force the transformation. The passive sage is already at work, weaving the threads of your character into a stronger fabric. The silence is not empty. It is a workshop of the soul. You are safe in the hands of your own highest potential. When the sun returns, you won't have to remind yourself to be strong. You will simply wake up and find that strength has become your natural state. You have mastered the night by letting the wisdom within you take the lead. You are resting now in the center of your own excellence, becoming the person you were always meant to be. The daylight has been surrendered, and the boundary between the world of action and the world of restoration is now a thin, shimmering line. You are standing in the final minute of your waking day. Most people spend these last 60 seconds scrolling through noise or letting their minds drift back into the grievances of the afternoon, effectively poisoning the well of their subconscious before they drink from it all night long. But you understand that this final minute is the most fertile soil in your psychological landscape. This is the moment of neuro-stoic priming. It is a surgical strike of intention that sets the trajectory for every hour of sleep that follows. You are giving your mind its final marching orders before the lights go out. This practice is based on the reality of sleep-dependent memory consolidation. Whatever is most prominent in your mind during the transition to sleep becomes the priority file for your brain to process while you are unconscious. If you spend this minute in worry, you are priming your brain for a night of stress. If you spend it in philosophical intention, you are priming it for a night of growth. You are choosing a single, powerful Stoic maxim to be the last spark of light in your mind. This isn't a complex thought. It is a seed. You might choose a phrase like, "I am the steady center," or simply, "Amor fati." You hold this thought with the weight of your entire being, letting it soak into the darkening corners of your awareness. As the body grows heavy and the senses begin to shut down, this prime acts as a magnetic north for your subconscious. It creates what researchers call a cognitive set, a mental framework that influences how information is filtered and organized. By setting a philosophical intention, you are essentially telling your neurons, organize tonight's repair around this principle. You are ensuring that as your brain performs its nightly maintenance, it does so according to the blueprints of a sage. The final 60 seconds become the first 60 miles of your journey into the night. You are not just falling, you are aiming. This priming also acts as a profound buffer against the morning dread. Many people wake up with a jolt of anxiety because their last thoughts the night before were unfinished and chaotic. By ending on a note of absolute Stoic clarity, you are pre-ordering your morning mood. You are ensuring that when you open your eyes, the first thing your conscious mind finds is the solid foundation you laid the night before. You are building a bridge of continuity across the dark. This is the ultimate form of self-mastery, to be the architect of your own awakening while you are still lying in the dark. As the last few seconds of wakefulness tick away, let go of the how and the why. Simply hold the what. Focus on the quality of the virtue you want to embody. Feel the strength of that intention as a physical sensation in your chest, a steady, glowing ember. You have done your duty. The commands have been issued. The prime is set. Now you can allow the darkness to take you, knowing that your mind is already working on your behalf, building the person you intend to be. The silence is now complete. The intention is locked in. The night is yours to conquer, one breath at a time. The theater of the night is a place of infinite shadows, where the subconscious often plays the role of a reckless director. weaving stories that are strange, distorted, and sometimes frightening. Most people enter this theater with their emotional hearts on their sleeves, allowing the images of a bad dream to dictate their physical state. They wake with a racing pulse and a heavy chest, carrying the residue of a nightmare as if it were a real event that actually happened to them. They have made the mistake of attaching value to a ghost. But as you sink into the deeper waters of the night, you are going to learn the art of decoupling. You are going to train your mind to see the dream for what it is, a series of firing neurons, an indifferent projection that has no power over the dignity of your soul. To decouple value from a dream is to apply the dichotomy of control to the very fabric of your sleep. The Stoics understood that the only things that can be bad or good are the choices we make with our own reason. Since you do not choose the content of your dreams, those dreams cannot be bad. They are merely impressions. As you drift, you are instilling a new rule in your nervous system. The image is not the reality. If your mind presents a dream of loss, embarrassment, or danger, you are training your inner observer to watch it with the same clinical detachment you would use to watch a flickering candle. You are refusing to grant the dream the power to disturb you. You are telling your subconscious, this is an internal weather pattern. It is not a judgment on my life. This practice turns the nightmare from a threat into a training ground. In the past, a frightening dream was a signal for your brain to dump cortisol into your blood, ruining your rest and leaving you on edge. Now, you are building a stoic buffer. By looking at the potential content of your dreams with indifference before you sleep, you are desensitizing your emotional response. You are realizing that the monster in the dream is made of the same stuff as the angel. It is all just mental light. When you strip the value away, the fear has nowhere to land. The dream may still happen, but it becomes silent. It loses its teeth. You can walk through a chaotic dreamscape with the same calm as a person walking through a quiet library. Physically, this decoupling allows for an unbroken recovery. Because your body no longer reacts to the fake news of a nightmare, your heart rate remains steady and your muscles stay loose. You are preventing the stress response from hijacking your biological repair. You wake up feeling refreshed even if the night was filled with strange visions, because you did not spend your energy fighting them. You have mastered the art of being unmovable even in your most vulnerable state. This creates a profound sense of self-trust. You know that no matter what your imagination cooks up, your character is safe and your peace is protected. As the night moves forward, let the stories of the mind be as light as smoke. You are the immovable mountain, and the dreams are just the mist that clings to your side for a moment before the sun burns it away. You don't need to control the dream. You only need to control your refusal to be disturbed by it. The theater is open, but the audience is at peace. When the morning arrives, you will find that this decoupling carries into your waking life. You will see the nightmares of the world, the rumors, the setbacks, the opinions of others, and you will realize they are just as empty as the dreams you left behind. You have learned to separate the event from the emotion. You are resting now in the center of your own invincibility. The noise of the world has finally retreated, leaving you in the ultimate court of law, the silence of your own company. As you lie here, there is no one to perform for, no one to deceive, and no one to impress. There is only the weight of your actions and the truth of your intent. Most people carry a hidden friction into the night, the small lies, the avoided duties, and the unkind words that act like sand in the gears of the mind. They wonder why their rest feels shallow, as if they are sleeping with one eye open. But there is a rare and profound state of recovery known as the sleep of the just. It is the physical reward for moral clarity, a deep, heavy peace that can only be accessed when the inner auditor has nothing to record against you. This isn't about being perfect, it is about being honest. A clear conscience is the absence of internal conflict. When your actions during the day align with your core values, your brain doesn't have to spend the night litigating your past. The Stoics knew that guilt is a form of self-inflicted torture that prevents the soul from ever being truly still. If you have done your best and remained true to your principles, your mind enters a state of uncontested rest. Your subconscious doesn't need to stay awake to build defenses or hide from the truth. It can fully surrender to the dark because there is no debt waiting to be paid. This moral alignment acts as a natural sedative for the nervous system. The physiological link here is found in the reduction of baseline vigilance. When you carry unresolved guilt or the weight of a compromised character, your brain remains in a state of high alert scanning. It perceives the self as being in danger of exposure or judgment, which keeps the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight engine, constantly idling. This prevents the brain from dropping into the deepest stages of non-REM sleep, where the most vital physical repair happens. But the just sleeper has no such burden. Their heart rate drops further, their breathing is deeper, and their brain waves move into the slow, rhythmic pulses of stage 3, sleep without interruption. They are literally being healed by their own integrity. This moral clarity also influences the glymphatic wash, the brain's cellular cleaning process. High levels of stress hormones, often fueled by the low-level anxiety of an unclear conscience, can actually inhibit this vital plumbing system. By practicing a life of virtue, you are ensuring that your brain can physically wash away the metabolic waste of the day. You are cleaning your mind with the water of your own honesty. This creates a cycle of strength. Your virtue leads to better sleep, and your better sleep gives you the mental energy to be even more virtuous the next day. You are building a character that is supported by your very biology. As you drift now, feel the lightness that comes from having nothing to hide. You have lived the day according to your nature. You have been a good steward of your own reason. The sleep of the just is not a gift, it is a result. It is the natural consequence of a life lived in the light. In this profound stillness, you can let go of the world entirely, knowing that you are at peace with the man or woman in the mirror. There are no ghosts in the room when the light of the soul is clear. When you wake, you will feel a sense of moral weightlessness. You will move through the world with a quiet, steady gaze because you are not carrying the baggage of yesterday's failures. You have mastered the night by mastering yourself during the day. You are resting now in the deepest, most restorative waters of the soul, safe, certain, and completely whole. The clock ticks in the silence, and the rest of the world has retreated into the haze of unconsciousness. For most, this is the moment where frustration begins to take root. They look at the hours remaining before dawn and feel a sense of panic, labeling their wakefulness as a failure of the body or a theft of their energy. This resistance is the true enemy of rest. By fighting the fact that you are awake, you create a second, more damaging layer of stress that ensures you stay that way. But the Stoic knows that nothing that happens in nature is a mistake. If the body is awake, the body is awake. Tonight, you are going to reframe this unwanted vigilance. You are going to stop viewing insomnia as a deficit and start viewing it as a bonus session for the soul. an unexpected night watch where your character can be forged in the quiet. This reframing is an act of radical acceptance. When you find yourself unable to sleep, your first duty is to remove the judgment. You tell yourself, being awake is indifferent. My response to it is everything. If you spend the next hour in a state of calm, objective observation, you have gained more than the person who spent it in a restless, unconscious dream. You are practicing the hegemonikon, the ruling faculty, under pressure. You are proving to yourself that your peace does not depend on perfect conditions. You are learning to be the master of the dark, rather than a victim of the clock. This shift in perspective immediately lowers the emotional temperature of the room, often ironically creating the very relaxation that allows sleep to finally return. While you are awake, you use the time for prochiron, keeping your principles at hand. You don't scroll, you don't turn on the lights, and you don't chase distractions. You stay in the arena of your own mind. You might practice a slow mental audit of your values, or visualize a difficult conversation you expect tomorrow, meeting it with perfect equanimity. You are preloading your virtue. By doing this, you turn a period of biological waste into a period of psychological profit. You are realizing that the bed is not just a place for rest, but a gymnasium for the mind. When you stop demanding sleep, you remove the performance anxiety that keeps the brain's arousal systems firing. Physically, this reframing prevents the cortisol spike that usually accompanies nighttime frustration. When you are annoyed that you aren't sleeping, your brain perceives a threat and prepares for battle, which is the exact opposite of what the body needs to transition into sleep. By welcoming the wakefulness, you keep the parasympathetic nervous system engaged. You are essentially saying to your biology, I am safe here in the dark, whether my eyes are open or closed. This stoic stillness allows the body to maintain a high level of physical recovery even without the loss of consciousness. You may not be sleeping, but you are profoundly resting. As you lie there, let the silence be your teacher. You are experiencing the world in a way few ever do, without the noise of others, without the demands of the day, and without the filter of dreams. You are a silent witness to the passage of time. There is a deep, ancient power in this watchfulness. You are becoming a person who cannot be broken by a bad night, because you have learned how to turn the dark into an ally. You are resting in the truth that your worth is not measured by the hours of sleep you get, but by the quality of the mind you maintain while you are awake. When the sun finally rises, you will not feel the hangover of the frustrated. You will step into the day with a quiet, secret strength. You will know that you have already won your first battle of the day before it even began. You have mastered the night, not by forcing it to be what you wanted, but by accepting it for what it was. You are ready now for anything, because you have found peace in the one place most people fear to look, the silence of their own wakefulness. The day has been refined into its final essence, and you are standing at the threshold of the unconscious. In Stoic philosophy, the hegemonikon is the ruling faculty, the command center of your reason. While your body prepares to surrender its motor functions, this faculty does not simply vanish. It leaves an echo that reverberates through the different stages of your sleep. Most people allow their last waking thought to be a chaotic fragment of a social media feed or a nagging worry about a debt. This creates a dissonant echo that leads to fractured rest. But you are going to use this final moment to strike a clear, resonant note of virtue that will act as a harmonic frequency for your entire sleep cycle. Making the hegemonikon's echo resonate requires a technique of mental prolongation. Instead of just thinking a thought and letting it go, you treat your last waking idea like the strike of a cathedral bell. You choose a principle, perhaps Marcus Aurelius's reminder that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, and you hold it in the center of your awareness as the darkness closes in. You aren't analyzing the thought, you are feeling its weight. By maintaining this focus into the very first stage of sleep, you are dyeing the initial layers of your subconscious. You are ensuring that as your brain begins its nightly data shuffling, the ruling faculty has provided the template for how that data should be organized. This echo serves a vital biological function. As you move into NREM, non-rapid eye movement sleep, your brain begins a process of downscaling synapses to keep the system efficient. If your last thought is one of Stoic resilience, the brain is more likely to preserve the neural pathways associated with that strength while pruning away the noise of the day's trivial anxieties. You are essentially giving your brain a filter. The echo of the hegemonicon acts as a steady signal that guides the thalamus, the brain's grand switchboard, to keep your emotional reactivity low. You are practicing active rest, where your reason remains the silent conductor of your biological orchestra. As you transition into REM sleep, where dreams become most vivid, the echo persists as a form of moral gravity. Because you primed the system with a high-order principle, the chaotic narratives of your dreams are less likely to pull you into emotional spirals. The hegemonicon's echo acts as a lighthouse. Even if the dream sea gets rough, the light of your reason remains visible in the distance. This prevents the stress carryover that often happens when we wake up feeling exhausted from a night of mental struggle. Instead, you wake up with the afterglow of your last waking thought, finding that the principle you fell asleep with is now the first thing you remember. The physical sensation of this practice is a deep, resonant stillness. You are no longer falling into sleep, you are descending with intention. You feel the thought vibrating in your very marrow, a steady pulse of, I am and I am enough. This is the ultimate mastery of the self, to extend the reach of your reason into the depths of the night. You are making your character a 24-hour reality. The echo of your virtue is now the background music of your existence. When the morning light returns, you won't have to search for your strength. It will be waiting for you. The echo of the night has become the voice of the morning. You have mastered the transition, and in doing so, you have made your rest as virtuous as your work. You are ready to rise, not as a person who has merely survived the night, but as one who has commanded it. The transition from studying philosophy to embodying it happens in the quiet, repetitive architecture of the subconscious. Most people believe that virtue is a choice made in the heat of the moment, a conscious struggle between impulse and reason. But by the time a crisis has arrived, the conscious mind is often too slow to act. True Stoic mastery relies on subliminal virtue, the process of saturating the mind with logic so thoroughly that your ethical response becomes as automated as your heartbeat. You are moving from thinking about Stoicism to becoming a Stoic reflex. This automation occurs through the principle of synaptic consolidation. Every time you expose your mind to a Stoic truth, such as the dichotomy of control, you are physically carving a path in your brain. In the beginning, this path is a narrow trail that requires effort to walk, but with repeated exposure, especially in the suggestible states of light sleep or deep meditation, that trail becomes a superhighway. When a provocation occurs, your brain no longer has to search for a response. It simply follows the most well-worn path. You find yourself responding to a loss with immediate, calm acceptance before you've even had a chance to decide to be stoic. By saturating your subconscious with these logical primes, you are bypassing the ego's tendency to argue. When the conscious mind is busy or tired, it defaults to its programming. Subliminal virtue ensures that your default is excellence. This is why the ancient practitioners advocated for the constant digestion of maxims. They weren't just memorizing sentences, they were dyeing the soul, as Marcus Aurelius described it. They wanted the logic of the logos to be so deeply embedded that even their first involuntary movements, the propathei, would be aligned with reason. Physically, this leads to a state of neurological economy. You waste less energy on internal conflict. Because your ethical responses are automated, you don't suffer the decision fatigue that plagues most people when they face adversity. Your nervous system stays regulated because the solution to the problem, virtuous action, is triggered simultaneously with the problem itself. You are essentially building an ethical autopilot that keeps the ship steady even when the captain is asleep. As you continue this exposure, feel the friction of your life beginning to vanish. You are no longer fighting yourself to be good. You are simply acting according to the new nature you have built. The logic of the sages has become your own intuition. You are resting in the power of a mind that has been trained to choose the truth every time without a second thought. In the vivid theater of REM sleep, your brain often constructs elaborate dramas centered around the very things that the Stoics warned us about. The preferred indifference. You may find yourself draped in dream wealth, celebrated in dream fame, or conversely, suffering from dream poverty and dream shame. Because the prefrontal cortex, the seat of our logic, is partially offline during this stage, these illusions feel profoundly real. We wake up with our hearts racing from a perceived loss or our egos inflated by a perceived win. But tonight, you are training your subconscious to recognize the logic of indifference, even in the height of the dream storm. You are instilling the truth that external success, whether in the waking world or the dreaming one, adds exactly zero value to the quality of your soul. To apply this logic, you must practice subconscious labeling. Before you drift into the REM cycle, you anchor the thought that all external things are adiaphora, indifferent. You tell your deep mind, wealth is not a good, fame is not a good, only my character is mine. When this logic is deeply embedded, it begins to leak into your dream state. Even when the executive self is resting, the moral self remains vigilant. If a dream presents you with a mountain of gold or a cheering crowd, a part of you remains unmoved. You are learning to be the stoic actor who plays the part of the king in the dream play, but never forgets that once the curtain falls, the crown is just a prop. Physically, this realization prevents the dopamine hangover or the cortisol spike that follows emotionally charged dreams. Usually, a dream of great success triggers a surge of reward chemicals that makes reality feel dull upon waking. A dream of failure triggers a stress response that ruins your morning. By decoupling your value from these dream outcomes, you keep your nervous system in a state of equanimity. You are teaching your brain that its internal reward system should only fire for one thing: the maintenance of your own reason. This leads to a unique kind of biological stability. You wake up as the same person, regardless of whether you spent the night as a beggar or a billionaire. As you move into the deeper REM cycles, let this logic be your totem. You are the observer of the theater, not the victim of the plot. You see the fame and the wealth for what they are, shifting shadows on the cave wall. They have no more substance than the mist. By refusing to chase them in your dreams, you are reinforcing your ability to ignore them in your waking life. You are mastering the ultimate Stoic skill, the ability to remain yourself when everything else is stripped away. When the sun rises, you will step into the world with a profound sense of mental weightlessness. The things the world chases, the status, the trinkets, the applause, will seem as thin and transparent as the dreams you just left behind. You have proven to yourself in the most vivid way possible that your peace is independent of your circumstances. You are resting now in the only wealth that matters, a mind that knows its own worth. In the fluid landscape of a dream, the mind often loses its grip on reality, spinning into narratives of panic or helplessness. These stressful loops can feel indistinguishable from real-world crises, triggering the same physiological reactions: a racing heart, shallow breath, and a spike in cortisol. However, by leveraging the brain's capacity for mnemonic priming, you can install a mental autosave point, a Stoic reset button that triggers automatically when the dream narrative reaches a certain threshold of distress. This is the practice of Stoic resilience loops, where you turn your own subconscious alarms into a signal for immediate, unshakable calm. To create this autosave point, you must identify your dream signs, those recurring themes of stress, such as being chased, feeling unprepared, or losing control. During your waking hours, you perform a preemptive strike. You visualize these specific scenarios and immediately pair them with a profound physical and mental response, a deep, diaphragmatic breath, and the internal command: "This is an indifferent. I am the master of my response." You are essentially creating a conditional reflex. You are telling your neurons, if X stress occurs, then Y, Stoic calm, is the mandatory response. During the night, as the dream begins to spiral toward anxiety, the autosave triggers. Before the dream can fully hijack your nervous system, the sheer repetition of your daytime training causes the resilience loop to fire. Even if you don't become fully lucid, aware that you are dreaming, your subconscious behavior changes. You find yourself standing your ground against the dream threat, or calmly observing the chaos rather than fleeing from it. You have moved the ruling faculty from your conscious mind into your involuntary reflexes. You are no longer trying to be stoic. Your brain has simply automated the response. Physically, these loops prevent the negative carryover that ruins your morning recovery. Instead of waking up exhausted from a night of internal battle, you wake up in the saved state of calm. Your heart rate remains within a resting rhythm because the autosave successfully inhibited the amygdala's alarm signal before it could flood the body with stress hormones. You are essentially practicing neurological stoicism, where your philosophy has become a part of your autonomic nervous system. As you settle into rest, reinforce this loop one last time. Visualize the sensation of a stressful thought and feel the immediate cool wash of the autosave point taking over. You are building a mind that is safe even from itself. The night can bring whatever stories it wishes. Your autosave is set and your peace is secure. In the final descent towards sleep, your relationship with your physical form undergoes a fundamental Stoic shift. Most people identify so closely with their bodies that every ache, every bout of fatigue, and every physical urge feels like an emergency of the self. They serve the body as if it were a demanding master. But tonight, you are reclaiming your position as the architect. You are training your subconscious to view the body not as you, but as a sophisticated tool, a vessel assigned to you by nature, and its rest as a mandatory maintenance task for the soul. You are no longer going to sleep. You are taking the instrument to the forge for the necessary repairs that allow the soul to function with excellence. This perspective is rooted in the concept of the koinos logos, the idea that our physical bodies are part of the universal material, borrowed for a short time. When you view sleep as maintenance, you remove the ego's emotional drama from the act of resting. You stop trying to sleep for personal comfort and start allowing sleep for the sake of duty. Just as a soldier cleans their rifle or a craftsman sharpens their blade, you are overseeing the biological upkeep of your instrument. This detachment is the key to deep, efficient rest. By treating the body as a separate entity under your care, you silence the internal complaints of the ego, allowing the parasympathetic nervous system to execute its repairs without the interference of your personal desires. Physically, this maintenance mode triggers a shift in how your brain manages its resources. When the subconscious views sleep as a critical task for the soul's clarity, it prioritizes the deep wave states where cellular regeneration and hormonal balancing occur. You are essentially giving your biology executive permission to ignore the trivial noise of the day and focus entirely on structural integrity. By depersonalizing the fatigue, you prevent the mind from worrying about being tired, which is a primary cause of restless sleep. You realize that the body's need for rest is a law of nature, and to resist it is to resist the logos itself. As you drift, visualize the maintenance taking place. See the neural pathways being cleaned, the muscles being restored, and the heart rate being calibrated for the morning's work. You are the silent observer of this process, satisfied that the tool is being prepared for another day of virtuous action. This creates a state of profound biological resignation, a total surrender to the natural process of repair. You aren't losing consciousness. You are delegating the upkeep of your vessel to the ancient, reliable systems of nature. When the sun rises, you will not wake up as a person who has slept in. You will wake up as a craftsman who has just picked up a freshly sharpened tool. You will feel a sense of utility and readiness, knowing that your body has been serviced and is now ready to be directed by your reason once more. You have mastered the body by recognizing its place, and in doing so, you have freed the soul to do its highest work. The day has exacted its toll, and the sensation of fatigue is no longer a distant suggestion. It is a heavy, undeniable weight pressing into your limbs and clouding your thoughts. For most, this state is met with a subtle internal resentment. They view their tiredness as a weakness, a barrier to their productivity, or an inconvenient interruption to their will. They fight the gravity of their own exhaustion, creating a secondary layer of mental friction that is far more draining than the physical fatigue itself. But tonight, you are practicing amor fati in the dark. You are not just accepting the fact that you are tired, you are choosing to love it. You are embracing your exhaustion as the honest receipt of a day lived with intention. Loving your fatigue is the ultimate act of alignment with the Logos. To resent being tired is to resent the very laws of biology and the passage of time. It is a form of soft rebellion against the way things are. When you practice amor fati, you look at your heavy eyelids and your slowed heart rate, and you say, "This is exactly what should be happening." You recognize that your fatigue is a trophy. It is proof that you have spent your energy rather than hoarding it. You stop seeing tiredness as a deficit and start seeing it as the natural, beautiful punctuation at the end of a virtuous sentence. Physically, this shift from resentment to love triggers an immediate neurological release. When you resent your tiredness, your brain produces a small but persistent alertness signal, a low-grade stress response that tries to override the fatigue. This creates the tired but wired phenomenon that prevents deep sleep. By loving the fatigue, you remove this signal. You allow the adenosine, the chemical marker of your day's work, to bind fully to its receptors without the interference of stress-induced adrenaline. You are essentially greasing the wheels of your own descent into rest. You are telling your nervous system that the mission is complete and the re-entry is welcomed. As you lie in the dark, lean into the sensation of the pull. Feel the weight of your body not as a burden, but as a grounding force that connects you to the earth. There is a profound dignity in being truly, honestly tired after a day of purposeful action. You are resting not because you are defeated, but because you have been a good steward of your energy. You are welcoming the minor death of sleep with the same gratitude you would show a friend. In this state of amor fati, the darkness is not a void, it is a sanctuary. When the sun rises, the fatigue will be gone, replaced by the new energy of the morning. But the lesson will remain. You will move through your day with more courage, knowing that even the low points of exhaustion are things you can embrace and love. You have mastered the night by refusing to fight the truth of your own body. You are resting now in the perfect, heavy peace of a fate that you have claimed as your own. The day is done, and the noise of the public square has faded into the profound silence of your room. While the body rests, the mind remains a fertile space, and tonight you are not inhabiting it alone. You are practicing the art of the internalized mentor. This is a sophisticated form of cognitive modeling where you construct an avatar of a Stoic master, Marcus Aurelius with his weary but unyielding duty, or Seneca with his sharp diagnostic wit, and invite them into the theater of your mind. You aren't just thinking about their words, you are consulting them, allowing their perceived presence to audit your character while you are most receptive. To internalize a mentor is to create a moral mirror. As you lie in the stillness, you present the events of your day to this internalized figure. You don't offer excuses or narratives, you offer facts. You see yourself through their eyes. If you were short-tempered, you don't say, "I was stressed." You say, "I surrendered my reason to a temporary impression." By viewing your life through the lens of a person who has already mastered the path, you bypass your own ego's self-defense mechanisms. You are essentially using a third-person perspective to perform a deep-level character adjustment. This isn't a conversation of words, but of values. You feel the mentor's silent approval when you acted with virtue, and their calm, corrective gaze when you fell short. Physically, this practice engages the brain's mirror neuron system and the theory of mind circuits. By simulating the perspective of a mentor, you are literally rewiring your own neural pathways to mirror theirs. You are priming your brain to default to the wisdom of the sage. During the night, as your brain performs its memory consolidation, it does so under the influence of this external audit. The lessons of the day are filtered through the standards of the mentor you have invoked. This leads to a unique kind of moral resilience. You aren't just trying to be better, you are training your brain to see the world through a more virtuous lens. As the night deepens, let the presence of the mentor fade into the background, leaving only their standards behind. You realize that the mentor you have constructed is actually a manifestation of your own highest reason. You aren't consulting a ghost, you are consulting the best version of yourself. This realization removes the need for external validation. You are becoming your own master, your own witness, and your own judge. You are resting in the company of your own excellence. When the sun rises, the mentor remains as a silent echo in your mind. In moments of midday pressure, you will find yourself asking, "What would the master do?" And the answer will arrive with the speed of an automated reflex. You have mastered the night by inviting wisdom into the dark, and in doing so, you have ensured that you never walk alone. The ultimate test of the Stoic ruling faculty does not happen in the bright light of day, but in the deepest trenches of the night. During a night terror or a particularly vivid nightmare, the brain's amygdala is in a state of full alarm, flooding the system with a survival signal that feels indistinguishable from a physical threat. Most people are completely consumed by this theater, becoming helpless victims of their own neural firing. But through metacognitive sleeping, you can develop a watcher that stays awake even while the rest of the mind is dreaming. You are training the prefrontal cortex to maintain a tether to reality, allowing you to observe the terror and calmly conclude, "This is just a projection." Metacognitive sleeping is the application of cognitive distancing to the involuntary mind. It begins with the daytime practice of labeling impressions. When you feel a surge of anger or fear during the day, you stop and say, "You are an impression, and not at all the thing you appear to be." By doing this thousands of times while awake, you create a stoic reflex that eventually carries over into the dream state. When a night terror strikes, this reflex fires. Even if you cannot change the dream's imagery, the watcher recognizes the exaggerated nature of the fear. You are essentially waking up within the emotion, even if the body remains asleep. Physically, this metacognitive awareness acts as a biological circuit breaker. Normally, a night terror leads to a massive spike in heart rate and blood pressure because the brain believes the threat is real. But the moment the watcher identifies the dream as a projection, the top-down regulation of the prefrontal cortex kicks in. It sends a signal to the limbic system to stand down. You may still see the monster or the disaster, but the physiological panic is neutered. You are essentially practicing neurological dispassion, proving that your reason is more powerful than your instincts, even in the dark. As you refine this ability, the night terror loses its power to haunt you. You begin to see these episodes not as bad sleep, but as high-intensity training. You are the athlete of the soul, and the night terror is the heavy weight that builds your character. You realize that if you can remain centered while your brain is screaming, "Danger," there is nothing in the waking world that can truly shake you. You are developing a state of invincible awareness that transcends the boundaries of wakefulness and sleep. When the sun rises after such a night, you wake with a unique sense of triumph. You didn't just survive the night, you mastered it. You feel a profound sense of self-sovereignty, knowing that your reason is a light that never fully goes out. You have turned the most terrifying part of human experience into a testament to your own strength. In the profound depths of the night, you leave behind the world of images, stories, and even the I itself. You enter the Stoic void, the stage of deep non-REM, stage 3, sleep. In this state, the brain's high-frequency chatter falls silent, replaced by slow, rhythmic oscillations, Most people fear this nothingness, or they sleep through it unaware of its power. But for the Stoic, this void is the ultimate sanctuary. It is the physical manifestation of ataraxia, the state of being completely undisturbed. It is the only time in your life when the ruling faculty can truly rest, because there is finally nothing left to judge, nothing to categorize, and nothing to resist. Entering the Stoic void is a lesson in the cosmic perspective. As your brain waves slow to their lowest frequency, you are experiencing a state that is indistinguishable from the state of the universe before you were born and after you will die. By consciously welcoming this absence of thought before you drift off, you are practicing the ultimate form of intellectual humility. You are recognizing that the world continues to turn without your opinions, your worries, or your constant mental narration. This is the God's eye view of your own existence, a vast, silent space where the ego is not only unnecessary but non-existent. Physically, this void is where the most aggressive Stoic maintenance occurs. During deep wave sleep, the brain's glymphatic system becomes 10 times more active, literally washing away the metabolic junk that accumulated during the day's stress. Your body is performing a physical purge of the remnants of your anxiety. By aligning your mind with the beauty of this void, you are allowing this cleaning process to happen without the static of a restless mind. You are giving nature the total silence it needs to rebuild your neurons. You wake up not just with a rested body, but with a clean slate, a mind that has been scrubbed of yesterday's baggage. As you approach this void, let the silence be your reward. You don't need to fill the dark with affirmations or visualizations anymore. You have done the work. Now you simply surrender to the great silence of the Logos. You are resting in the heart of the universe, where there are no names, no problems, and no self. You are simply a part of the whole, pulsing with the slow, steady rhythm of existence. This is the deepest peace a human can know, the peace of being absolutely nothing, so that you can wake up and be anything. When the morning returns, you will rise from the void with a peculiar kind of clarity. You will realize that the problems you had yesterday were just temporary scribbles on the surface of this vast underlying silence. You have touched the void and found it to be a place of strength, not fear. You are ready to enter the world again, carrying a piece of that indestructible silence within you. Every night, your brain performs a ruthless and necessary act of biological editing known as synaptic pruning. This is the process where the nervous system trims away the neural connections that were not reinforced or deemed useful during the day. For most people, this pruning is a chaotic process, often leaving intact the high-heat connections of anger, lust, or vanity because they were felt so intensely. But the Stoic understands that we can direct this process. By applying Stoic logic in the hours before sleep, you are essentially tagging your irrational passions for deletion. You are telling your brain that the spark of road rage or the sting of a social slight is waste, allowing the biology of the night to discard it forever. This is the art of objective representation. When you look back at a moment of passion, what the Stoics defined as an irrational, excessive movement of the mind, you strip it of its emotional adjectives. You don't recall the insult that made me feel small. You recall the sound of a human voice making specific noises. By viewing the event through this clinical, logical lens right before sleep, you are cooling the neural circuit. The brain's hippocampus and cortex use these final waking evaluations to decide which memories deserve to be strengthened and which should be pruned. When a passion is labeled as indifferent or irrational, it loses its priority status. Physically, this pruning is carried out by specialized cells called microglia. These cells act as the brain's gardeners, moving through the neural network to remove the synapses that have become weak or unnecessary. If you enter sleep with a mind still inflamed by a passion, these gardeners may bypass those circuits, leaving the anxiety loop intact for the morning. But by performing a Stoic review, you are effectively signaling to the microglia that these emotional connections are no longer required for your survival. You are choosing to forget the ego-driven drama so that you can remember the logic of the sage. This creates a state of emotional deceleration. As you move through the sleep cycles, the brain consolidates the logical versions of your experiences. The irrational passion is physically weakened, its synaptic weight diminished. This is why a problem that felt world-ending at 10 p.m. often feels trivial at 7 a.m. For the Stoic, this isn't just a happy accident, it is a calculated result. You are using the biology of the night to perform a character cleanse, ensuring that you wake up with a brain that is more streamlined, more rational, and less reactive than the one you went to bed with. As you drift now, mentally unhook yourself from the emotional spikes of the day. Look at your passions as decaying structures that no longer serve you. Give the brain permission to prune them away. You are resting in the knowledge that your mind is being refined in the dark, becoming a sharper, cleaner tool for the morning's virtue. In the Stoic view, the universe is not a chaotic accident, but a structured, rational whole, the Logos. This universal reason manifests in the physical world through the cycles of the heavens, the changing of seasons, and the rhythmic pulse of light and dark. Most people live in a state of chronological rebellion, using artificial light and digital noise to defy the sun, effectively severing their connection to the natural order. This creates a state of internal friction, dis-ease. Tonight, you are reclaiming your role as the circadian sage. You are not simply going to bed. You are aligning your biological clock with the clock of the cosmos, recognizing that your health is a subset of the world's health. To align with the Logos is to recognize that your body is a product of nature, subject to the same laws as the trees and the tides. The circadian sage understands that the brain's internal timing, governed by the suprachiasmatic nucleus, is designed to respond to the blue frequency light of the morning and the amber-red shift of the evening. When you fight this rhythm, you are fighting your own nature. By choosing to sleep and wake in harmony with the sun, you are performing an act of biological piety. You are acknowledging that you are part of a larger system. This shift in perspective turns going to bed on time from a chore into a profound spiritual alignment. You are finding your place in the symphony of the world. Physically, this alignment optimizes the neuro-stoic chemistry of your brain. In the hours after sunset, the pineal gland begins to secrete melatonin, the vampire hormone that only emerges in the dark. This isn't just a sleep aid. It is a powerful antioxidant that protects the brain's integrity. When you align with the Logos, you allow these natural chemicals to perform their work without the interference of cortisol-inducing screens. You are essentially letting nature tune your instrument. By the time you reach the deepest hours of the night, your body is in perfect sync with the cooling of the earth and the slowing of the world. You are resting at the exact frequency for which you were designed. This creates a state of effortless vitality. Because you are no longer fighting the natural order, you wake up not with a jolt of an alarm, but with the rising light. Your cortisol levels peak naturally as the sun rises, priming you for action and virtue. You realize that the discipline of a sleep schedule is actually the freedom of alignment. You move through your day with a steady energy because you have stopped leaking power through chronological friction. You have mastered the clock by surrendering to the calendar of the universe. As you drift now, feel the vast, slow rotation of the earth beneath you. You are a small, conscious cell in a massive, breathing organism. You are exactly where you belong, moving at the speed of nature. The silence of the room is the silence of the stars. You are at peace because you have finally stopped resisting the rhythm of the whole. The final hours of the day are a time of extreme psychological permeability. As the analytical, fighting mind of the afternoon begins to tire, the barriers between your conscious thoughts and your subconscious depths become porous. Most people spend this time absorbing the frantic energy of the news or the shallow comparisons of social media, practicing a form of negative osmosis that poisons their rest. But you are going to use this window for a deliberate saturation of the soul. Emotional osmosis is the practice of immersing your mind in the rhythmic, steady logic of Stoic texts, not to analyze them, but to breathe them in. You are allowing the calm of the masters to seep into your nervous system through the skin of your attention. When you read a text like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations or Seneca's Letters in the dim light of evening, you are doing more than processing information. You are engaging in a form of linguistic entrainment. The measured, objective and vertical perspective of these writers acts as a tuning fork for your own internal frequency. As you read their descriptions of the world's indifference and the soul's invincibility, your brain begins to mirror their cognitive state. The heat of your daily anxieties starts to dissipate, replaced by the cool logic of the page. You are not just reading about Stoicism, you are literally catching the tranquility of the author. Physically, this practice facilitates a profound shift in your autonomic tone. The act of focused, slow-paced reading, away from the flickering blue light of a screen, signals to the brain that the hunt is over. As the logic of the text deconstructs the day's threats, your amygdala's vigil decreases and your parasympathetic nervous system takes the lead. This isn't a passive relaxation, it is a cognitive deceleration. You are slowing the RPMs of your mind to match the timeless pace of the Logos. By the time you close the book, the scent of the Stoic perspective has been absorbed into your mental fabric, ensuring that the first thoughts your subconscious processes in sleep are thoughts of strength and order. As you drift now, let the last few sentences you read resonate in the silence. Don't try to remember them perfectly. Just hold the feeling of the perspective they offered. You have dyed your mind with the color of wisdom. You are no longer a person trying to stay calm. You are a person who has absorbed calm from the source. The world may be chaotic, but the atmosphere of your mind is now governed by the steady, ancient peace of the sages. In the fluid landscape of the dream state, most people experience a moral drift. They find themselves acting in ways that contradict their waking values, fleeing in cowardice, lashing out in anger, or surrendering to impulses they would normally master. This happens because the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the seat of our executive control and moral self-monitoring, is significantly deactivated during REM sleep. However, for the Stoic, the goal is to build an anchor of character so dense and so deeply embedded that it remains fixed even when the light of conscious reason is dimmed. You are training your moral reflex to be stronger than the dream's narrative. Building this anchor requires the practice of habitual overlearning. In Stoicism, virtue is not a series of debated choices, it is a disposition. By the time you are dreaming, you are no longer thinking, you are reacting based on the patterns you have carved into your nervous system during the day. If you spend your waking hours practicing immediate reflexive courage and honesty, those neural pathways become hardwired. They move from the energy-intensive prefrontal cortex into the basal ganglia, the part of the brain that handles automated behaviors and habits. When a dream presents a moral test, your brain doesn't need the executive center to decide what to do. It simply executes the habit of virtue. Physically, this anchor creates a state of subconscious integrity. When your moral identity is unified across both waking and dreaming states, you eliminate the psychological friction that comes from being two different people. This leads to a more profound level of rest, because the brain isn't spending its sleep cycles trying to resolve the conflict between your ideal self and your dream self. You wake up with a sense of continuous selfhood, a feeling that your character is an unbreakable thread that runs through the light and the dark alike. You are proving to your subconscious that your virtue is not a performance for others, but a fundamental law of your own nature. As you drift now, visualize your character as an iron pillar driven deep into the earth. The dreams may swirl around it like mist or hit it like a storm, but the pillar does not move. You are not a person who tries to be good. You are a person who is good by habit and by nature. Let this certainty be the weight that pulls you into the deep. You are safe in the citadel of yourself, a place where the rules of virtue apply even when the rules of physics do not. When the sun rises, you will feel an immense sense of internal authority. You will know that you are the same person in every world, and that your strength is not dependent on being watched. You have mastered the night by making your character the one thing that cannot be changed. In the silence of the night, the body remains a sensitive radar, sometimes misfiring and sending jolts of adrenaline or cortisol through your system without any external cause. These are the sudden heart flutters, the unexplained surges of alertness, or the falling sensations that can snap you out of a peaceful drift. Most people react to these jolts with a second, more powerful wave of mental anxiety. They wonder what's wrong, they fear they won't sleep, and they accidentally fuel the fire. Tonight, you are training the non-reactive mind. You are teaching your subconscious to treat these biological jolts as empty signals, noises in the machinery that require zero response from the soul. This training is the art of neurological indifference. When a jolt of cortisol hits, your brain's amygdala is essentially knocking on the door of your consciousness, asking if there is a threat. If you respond with worry, you open the door and invite the stress in. But through Stoic conditioning, you learn to keep the door closed. You view the cortisol as a physical event, like a muscle twitch or a stomach growl. You say to the sensation, "You are a movement of atoms. You are not a signal of danger." By refusing to attach your attention to the jolt, you allow the chemical to wash through your system and dissipate naturally, usually within a matter of seconds. Physically, this practice relies on the top-down inhibition of the prefrontal cortex. You are strengthening the neural brakes of your brain. Every time you experience a jolt of nighttime anxiety and choose to remain physically still and mentally unconcerned, you are weakening the link between the limbic system and your arousal centers. You are essentially telling your biology that these jolts are false alarms. Over time, the amygdala becomes less sensitive, and the jolts themselves begin to disappear because they are no longer being reinforced by your attention. You are developing a thick skin at the level of the neuron. This creates a state of biological imperturbability. You realize that you don't need to fix your body's sensations to be at peace. The body can be as loud as it wants, but as long as the ruling faculty remains non-reactive, your rest is secure. This is the ultimate form of Stoic fortress building, creating a mind that is so steady it can sleep through its own chemical storms. You are not a slave to your hormones. You are the master of your response to them. As you drift now, mentally prepare for the possibility of a jolt. Visualize it as a harmless wave of energy that passes through you without moving you. You are the rock, and the cortisol is the spray of the sea. It hits, it vanishes, and the rock remains. You are resting in the power of your own silence, a silence that no biological noise can break. The transition from the void of sleep back into the world of action is not a mundane routine. It is a profound biological and philosophical event. In the Stoic tradition, waking up is the Stoic resurrection. You are not simply continuing the story of you from yesterday. You are being reconstituted from the elements. The you that existed yesterday is gone, and the you of tomorrow does not yet exist. In this first moment of consciousness, you are a fresh creation of the Logos. To rise with this mindset is to treat the morning not as a burden to be endured, but as a gift to be utilized with the intensity of someone who has just been given a second life. This practice begins with the morning audit of agency. Before your feet even touch the floor, you acknowledge the miracle of your own return. You realize that nature has granted you another day, a bonus on top of a life already completed. You look at the day ahead, not as a series of problems, but as a series of materials for your virtue. Marcus Aurelius famously reminded himself, "When you rise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." By framing the morning as a resurrection, you strip away the hangover of the past. Yesterday's failures were left in the grave of the night. Today, you are a clean slate, equipped with the lessons of the past, but unburdened by its weight. Physically, this resurrection coincides with the cortisol awakening response, CAR. In the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking, your body produces a natural surge of cortisol, not as a signal of stress, but as a signal of readiness for action. The Stoic resurrection aligns your mind with this biological surge. Instead of using this energy to fuel anxiety about your to-do list, you channel it into your prochiron, your handy principles. You are essentially armoring up. You recognize that you will likely meet with interference, ingratitude, and difficulty, but because you are newly born into your purpose, these things cannot touch the core of your being. This mindset creates a state of intentional vitality. You rise with the gravity of a soldier and the gratitude of a survivor. You don't drift into your day, you march into it. You understand that your time is the only thing you truly own, and to waste the first hours of a resurrection is a form of sacrilege against your own nature. This clarity of purpose acts as a filter for the rest of the day. Because you started with the high-stakes realization that you have been brought back to life, the minor irritations of traffic, emails, or weather lose their power to move you. They are trivial details in the grand story of your return. As you prepare to leave the sanctuary of your bed, take one final breath of pure existence. You have been in the void, and you have returned. The I is back, but it is now a tool for the all. You are the master of this new day, and your only duty is to live it with the excellence that your resurrection deserves. The Stoic resurrection is not a retreat into a comfortable dream of a perfect world. It is the final preparation of the armor. As you emerge from the sanctuary of the night, your mind is at its most potent, cleansed by the Stoic void and strengthened by the internalized mentor. But the world you are about to enter remains indifferent to your peace. It is populated by what Marcus Aurelius called the meddling, the ungrateful, the arrogant, the dishonest, the jealous, and the unsociable. Most people spend their morning in a state of fragile optimism, only to be shattered by the first rude email or traffic jam. You, however, will use this moment of peak clarity for the morning anticipation of hardship, premeditatio malorum. This is the practice of pre-mortem for the day. While still in the quiet of your room, you mentally simulate the friction to come. You see the difficult colleague, the delayed project, and the unexpected criticism. You don't just see them, you feel your own potential for a reactive jolt, and you preemptively neutralize it. You tell yourself, I am meeting these people because they are part of the natural order, and like me, they are often blind to what is truly good or evil. By anticipating the hardship, you transform an intrusion into a prediction. When the meddler finally appears in your afternoon, they don't catch you off guard. You simply think, there is the person I prepared for this morning. Physically, this anticipation prevents the surprise stress response. When we expect perfection, every flaw in the day triggers a spike in adrenaline. But by using your refreshed mind to rehearse the hardship, you are performing a form of neurological priming. You are training your anterior cingulate cortex to recognize the conflict before it escalates. This keeps your heart rate steady and your breath deep, even in the middle of a crisis. You are moving from a reactive state to a proactive one. You aren't being cynical, you are being prepared. You are realizing that a shield is only useful if you know where the arrows are coming from. This practice turns your morning into a command briefing. You rise with the quiet confidence of a general who has already seen the map of the battlefield. You know that no matter how many ingrates you encounter, they cannot force you to be ungrateful yourself. They cannot touch your character unless you give them permission. You are reclaiming the first move of the day. Instead of letting the world dictate your mood, you have already decided how you will respond to the world's chaos. As you step out of your citadel and into the light, carry this anticipation as a silent companion. You are ready for the storm because you have already weathered it in the theater of your mind. You are the circadian sage, walking through a world of noise with a heart full of silence. The meddlers may be busy, but your will is already set. The moment of awakening is a psychological frontier. As the brain transitions from the delta and theta waves of sleep into the alpha and beta waves of wakefulness, there is a brief no man's land where the ego has not yet fully reconstructed its defenses or its grievances. Most people waste this sacred window by reaching for a phone, allowing the digital noise of the world to dictate their first mental state. But for you, this is the dawn of reason. You are going to seize this first flicker of consciousness to plant a Stoic maxim, ensuring that the foundation of your day is built on a pillar of truth rather than a pile of distractions. This practice is an act of neural anchoring. By choosing a specific maxim the night before, such as, "It is not events that disturb us, but our judgment of them," and making it the very first thing you think upon rising, you are setting the tonality for your entire nervous system. You are performing a system boot-up using the highest quality software available. This first thought acts as a cognitive filter. Every piece of information that enters your mind for the rest of the day must pass through this initial lens of reason. You are not just thinking a sentence, you are installing a perspective. Physically, the dawn of reason helps regulate the cortisol awakening response, CAR. While your body naturally produces a surge of energy to help you wake, the content of your thoughts determines whether that energy becomes productive readiness or unproductive anxiety. By focusing on a Stoic maxim, you are directing that biological surge toward the prefrontal cortex, the center of logic, rather than the amygdala, the center of fear. You are teaching your brain that alertness does not have to mean stress. You are waking up your reason before you wake up your worries. This creates a state of philosophical momentum. Because you started the day with a win for your ruling faculty, you are more likely to maintain that control when things get difficult. You have already proven to yourself in the very first second of the day that you are the master of your own attention. This small, silent victory builds a reservoir of confidence that you carry into your morning work. You aren't drifting into your day, you are leading it from the front. As the light touches your eyes, let the maxim be the bridge that brings you back from the void. Don't rush to the next thought. Let the words resonate in the stillness of the room. You are a soul with a body, a mind with a purpose, and a human being with a choice. The day is new, and your reason is already at the helm. As the morning light begins to permeate your room, you find yourself in the borderland of the soul, that transient period where the brain is transitioning out of deep sleep but hasn't yet reached full beta wave alertness. You are in the theta state. This is the peak of human neuroplasticity, a window where the subconscious is wide open and the rigid gatekeeper of the ego is still drowsy. In this state, you aren't just thinking, you are programming. This is the optimal time for refining the prochiron, the sharpening of your handy Stoic rules so they become as instinctive as your breath. The word prochiron literally means at hand. The Stoics knew that a library of books is useless in a crisis if the wisdom isn't already inside your grip. While in this theta-rich state, you don't perform complex philosophical analysis. Instead, you sharpen your maxims into short, razor-like commands. You take a broad concept, like the dichotomy of control, and refine it into a single-word mantra: indifferent. You take the vast complexity of amor fati and sharpen it into my will. Because you are in theta, these refinements aren't just remembered, they are imprinted directly into your behavioral templates. Physically, this morning sharpening engages the hippocampus as it prepares to move data into long-term storage in the neocortex. By focusing on your prochiron now, you are marking these specific rules with high-priority neurochemical tags. You are essentially telling your brain, this is the operating system I want to run today. This prevents the decision fatigue that usually occurs later in the afternoon, because you sharpened your rules while your mind was still soft and receptive. The logic is already at the surface of your awareness when the first friction of the day occurs. You don't have to reach for your philosophy, it is already in your hand. This practice turns your bed into a command center. You are performing a system check on your moral weaponry. You visualize a specific hardship, a person who will frustrate you, or a task that feels overwhelming, and you test your sharpened maxim against it. You see the maxim cutting through the emotional fog with ease. This isn't a struggle, it's a calibration. By the time you finally rise and move into the full light of the day, your prochiron is no longer a set of abstract ideas. It is a sharpened, high-performance tool ready for immediate use. As the theta waves begin to give way to the faster rhythms of the morning, feel the edge of your reason. It is clean, cold, and ready. You have spent your most receptive minutes arming your soul. The world can bring what it will. You are holding the truth in your hand, and you are ready to use it. Once the Stoic resurrection is complete and the light has fully returned, there is one final task for the content-creating philosopher: the post-sleep audit. Instead of ignoring the fragmented memories of your nighttime anxieties, you treat them as intellectual data. You analyze your mind's wanderings not as a source of shame, but as a diagnostic map of your remaining attachments. If your mind spent the night litigating a past mistake or obsessing over a future project, it has revealed exactly where your hegemonicon, your ruling faculty, is still weak. You are using the echoes of the night to identify where you have not yet fully internalized the dichotomy of control. In Stoicism, this is the practice of objective deconstruction. You take the anxiety that surfaced in the dark and strip it naked. If you dreamed of a deadline, you don't say, "I am failing." You say, "My mind is still treating an external outcome as a moral good." You are looking for the categorical errors of the subconscious. The night is a truth teller. It bypasses your daytime pretenses and shows you what you actually value. By auditing these wanderings while your mind is fresh and rational, you are defanging the anxiety. You are moving it from the realm of the unknown fear into the realm of the known indifferent. Physically, this audit facilitates the final consolidation of your emotional lessons. When you consciously analyze a dream stressor and apply Stoic logic to it, you are performing a top-down overwrite of the memory. The prefrontal cortex sends inhibitory signals to the amygdala, effectively telling the brain, "The alarm you raised last night was based on a false judgment." This prevents the anxiety from resetting itself for the next night. You are essentially debugging your own software. By the time you sit down to create your content, you aren't just rested, you are psychologically aligned, having integrated the night's lessons into your waking wisdom. This turns your sleep into a feedback loop for your character. You realize that a bad night is actually a good lesson. Every wandering thought is a pointer toward a new area of practice. You aren't discouraged by the presence of anxiety. You are encouraged by your ability to diagnose it. You are becoming a person who can turn even the waste of a nightmare into the fuel of a virtuous life. The night has done its work, and now, through the audit, you have made that work permanent. As you move toward your desk or your camera, you do so with a sense of total transparency. You know your own mind, its strengths, its shadows, and its current boundaries. You have audited the dark and found nothing that can truly harm you. You are ready to speak, to create, and to lead, because you have already mastered the internal conversation that happened while the world was asleep. The moment you open your eyes, you are at your most vulnerable. Your mind is transitioning from the stoic void of sleep back into the arena of the world. In this first minute, there is a gravitational pull, a modern siren song to reach for the phone. This device is a portal to the indifference, the opinions of strangers, the chaos of global news, and the demands of others' agendas. By reaching for it, you are immediately surrendering your hegemonicon, ruling faculty, to external impressions. You are essentially telling the universe that your own reason is less important than the digital noise of the collective. Tonight, you are preparing to claim the virtue of the first minute, a Stoic exercise in radical self-mastery where you prove that your soul belongs to you, not to your notifications. This exercise is an act of digital asceticism. In Stoicism, ascesis is the training of the mind to resist impulses. When you feel the itch to check the screen and you choose to remain in the silence of your own company, you are performing a rep in the gymnasium of the soul. You are asserting that your internal state is not a product of external inputs. You are using that first minute to anchor your character in reality, the weight of your blankets, the rhythm of your breath, and the clarity of your own thought, before the phantom world of the internet can fragment your attention. You are proving that you are the master of your tools rather than their servant. Physically, avoiding the phone in the first minute prevents a dopamine hijack. Checking notifications triggers a surge of dopamine that primes your brain for a day of seeking shallow, external rewards. This effectively weakens your ability to focus on deep, virtuous work later in the day. By choosing the silence, you allow your brain to complete its natural boot-up process. Your cortisol awakening response is used for its intended purpose, to provide the energy for physical and mental readiness, rather than fueling a state of digital hypervigilance. You are keeping your nervous system in a state of equanimity, ensuring that your first impression of the day is a deliberate choice, not an accidental intrusion. This creates a buffer of autonomy. Because you didn't let the world in immediately, you have established a mental citadel that lasts throughout the morning. You move from the bed to your first task with a sense of uninterrupted self. You aren't reacting to a like, a comment, or a crisis. You are acting according to your own plan. You realize that the world can wait 60 seconds for your attention, but your character cannot wait another second for your discipline. This small victory in the first minute is the seed of every other victory you will have during the day. As you drift into rest now, make a silent pact with the morning version of yourself. Visualize the phone lying there, silent and powerless. See yourself looking at it, acknowledging its presence, and then choosing the silence instead. You are a Stoic, and your first minute is a sacred space. You are the one who decides when the world is allowed to speak to you. The final stage of your neurophilosophical training is the integration of the night self. In the common experience, there is a sharp, jarring wall between the dreaming mind and the waking actor. We treat our sleep as a separate, slightly embarrassing theater that has no bearing on our real-world responsibilities. But for the Stoic, this fragmentation is a form of internal disharmony. To be truly whole, you must bridge the gap, ensuring that the logic you practiced in the Stoic void and the resilience you built in the resilience loops are not left behind when you put on your shoes. You are turning your sleep into the dry run for your life, making the wisdom of the night the muscle of the day. Integrating the night self is the practice of mnemonic continuity. As you move through your morning tasks, the simple acts of making coffee or dressing, you summon the state of mind you held during your deepest sleep. You ask yourself, does the man who found peace in the absence of thought last night need to be disturbed by this minor inconvenience now? You are using your sleeping states as a moral reference point. By consciously linking your waking actions to your nocturnal breakthroughs, you prevent the fading of your philosophy. You are ensuring that the subliminal virtue you programmed in the dark becomes the active, visible virtue of the light. Physically, this integration relies on the reconsolidation of memory. When you recall a Stoic lesson or a moment of dream resilience while in a waking state, you are strengthening the neural bridge between the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex. You are essentially uploading your subconscious gains into your conscious operating system. This reduces the lag time between a provocation and your stoic response. Because the night self has already rehearsed the calm, the waking self doesn't have to find it. The calm is already the default setting of your nervous system. You are moving from a state of practicing Stoicism to a state of unified character. This creates a sense of existential weightlessness. You no longer feel like you are starting over every morning. Instead, your life becomes a continuous 24-hour cycle of refinement. The night feeds the day with resilience and perspective. The day feeds the night with the materials of virtuous action for the audit. You have eliminated the internal borders. You are the same person in the void, in the dream, and in the arena. This unity is the hallmark of the sage, a mind that is never off-duty, and a character that is never compromised by the state of its consciousness. As you step into your work today, feel the presence of the night self. Carry that indestructible silence and that auto-saved calm into every conversation and every creative choice. You are not a fragmented being. You are a unified force of reason. The dark has taught you, the void has cleaned you, and the resurrection has armed you. Now, move through the world as a whole man, acting with the quiet, terrifying strength of someone who has mastered the night. In the final audit of the night, the Stoic moves beyond the desire for a specific result and settles into a profound appreciation for the process. Most people treat sleep like a consumer product. If they don't wake up feeling refreshed or energized, they view the night as a failure or a defective experience. They are only grateful for sleep when it meets their subjective expectations. But tonight, you are practicing the gratitude of function. You are offering thanks for the staggering autonomous machinery of your biology that labored on your behalf while you were gone, regardless of whether you felt its effects. To practice this is to acknowledge the Logos in the flesh. Your body is a masterpiece of self-regulating systems that you did not design and do not maintain through your own will. While you lay unconscious, your heart beat approximately 30,000 times, your lungs exchanged thousands of liters of oxygen, and your kidneys filtered your entire blood supply dozens of times over. This machinery does not ask for your permission or your praise. It simply performs its duty. Being thankful for this function, even after a night of tossing and turning, is an act of cosmic justice. You are recognizing that the vessel is doing its best, and that its mere operation is a gift you did not earn. Physically, this shift to gratitude for function alters your neuroendocrine response. Resenting a bad night of sleep triggers a stress response that poisons the following morning. However, when you wake up and consciously appreciate the fact that your machinery is still running, that your eyes open, your limbs move, and your lungs draw breath, you trigger a release of oxytocin and dopamine. This chemical shift creates a buffer against the physical symptoms of fatigue. You are essentially telling your brain, the quality of the rest was indifferent. The fact of the function is the good. This allows you to step into your day with a sense of operational peace rather than deficit thinking. By focusing on the machinery, you remove the ego from the equation. You aren't a failed sleeper. You are a living organism whose systems are currently engaged in the complex task of existing. This perspective is the ultimate cure for the burnout you seek to help your audience overcome. Burnout is often the result of demanding that our internal machinery perform at a constant, high-level output. The gratitude of function teaches you to love the machine even when it is idling or struggling. You are a good steward of your body, not because it is perfect, but because it is yours. As you rise today, don't ask yourself, "How do I feel?" Ask yourself, "Does the machine function?" If the answer is yes, then the day is a victory. You have been returned to the world, equipped with a biological miracle that has been working in the dark to keep you alive. That is enough. The transition from the stillness of the bed to the movement of the day is where most people lose their Stoic center. They burst into motion with a sense of hurry, which is a form of soft panic, a judgment that the future is more important than the present. This creates a physiological shatter that breaks the peace you built during the night. Tonight, you are preparing for kinetic Stoicism. This is the practice of moving through your first physical actions of the morning as if you are still underwater, carrying the profound stillness of the Stoic void into the very muscles that are starting to work. You are proving that stillness is not a lack of movement, but a state of soul that can be maintained during movement. This is the cultivation of deliberate motion. When you first rise, you observe your body as if from the outside. You feel the weight of your feet on the floor, the texture of the ground, and the precise engagement of your joints. You don't stumble or rush. You move with the economy and grace of a person who has nowhere they'd rather be. You are treating these simple movements, walking to the sink, pouring water, opening a window, as sacred rites. By moving slowly and intentionally, you are refusing to let the velocity of the world dictate the rhythm of your heart. You are the unmoved mover of your own morning. Physically, kinetic Stoicism prevents the sympathetic overshoot. When you rush into the morning, your brain interprets the sudden, frantic movement as a signal of a chase or a threat, triggering an unnecessary spike in heart rate and blood pressure. By maintaining a slow, controlled physical pace, you keep your vagus nerve engaged. You are essentially telling your nervous system, "The world is moving, but I am at peace." This keeps your emotional reactivity low throughout the morning, ensuring that your first creative session is fueled by steady, cool energy rather than the hot, brittle energy of morning stress. This practice turns your morning routine into a moving meditation. You realize that there is no interruption between your sleep and your work. It is all one continuous exercise in character. Whether you are lying in the void or walking across the room, your duty is the same: to remain the master of your impressions and the steward of your own calm. You aren't getting ready to be a Stoic. You are a Stoic, even in the way you pick up a glass of water. As you drift into rest, visualize your first movements tomorrow. See yourself moving with a quiet, heavy dignity. Feel the peace of the night remaining in your limbs, even as they begin to work. You are the master of the clock, the master of the pace, and the master of the movement. You are carrying the night into the day, and in doing so, you are making your peace indestructible. The state of sleep inertia, that heavy, clouded grogginess you feel immediately upon waking, is often viewed as a nuisance to be caffeinated away. However, for the Stoic content creator, this is a fertile hypnopompic state where the boundary between the subconscious and the conscious mind is at its thinnest. Instead of fighting the fog, you use it to sketch the blueprint of the day. This is a mental rehearsal where you don't just plan what you will do, but how you will be. While the ego is still too tired to mount its usual defenses, you plant the seeds of virtuous action, ensuring that your first waking impulses are already aligned with excellence. This rehearsal is an exercise in value mapping. In this groggy window, you visualize the key moments of your upcoming day, the difficult edit, the community interaction, or the creative block. You see yourself navigating these not with frustration, but with the specific virtues of patience, justice, and self-discipline. Because your brain is still producing theta waves, this visualization is more than just thinking. It is neurological architecture. You are building the blueprints that your nervous system will follow when the day's pressure increases. You are making virtue the path of least resistance before your analytical mind even has a chance to offer an alternative. Physically, this practice utilizes the default mode network, DMN, as it slowly hands over control to the task-positive network, TPN. By rehearsing your virtues during this handoff, you are preloading your executive functions with moral intent. Instead of waking up to a blank slate that is quickly filled with external stressors, you are waking up to a predefined structure. This reduces decision fatigue later in the day. Because you have already acted out your Stoic responses in the blueprint phase, your brain doesn't have to expend extra glucose to choose virtue in the heat of the moment. The choice has already been made in the quiet. This creates a sense of projected composure. You rise with a secret map of the day's moral terrain. You know where the landmines of anger or vanity are located, and you have already rehearsed your detour. This isn't about controlling the day's events, which are indifferent, but about controlling your blueprint. You realize that even if the day falls apart, your blueprint of virtue remains intact. You have mastered the grogginess by turning it into a workshop for the soul. As you drift into rest, prepare to meet that morning fog with a plan. Visualize yourself waking up, feeling the heaviness, and immediately starting to draw your blueprint of virtue in the dark. You are the architect of your own character, and the first minutes of the day are when the most important structures are built. To the Stoic, the body is a preferred indifferent. It is better to have it in health than in sickness, but its condition does not dictate the quality of the soul. When physical discomfort or chronic pain threatens to steal the night, most people collapse into a state of secondary suffering. They don't just feel the pain, they resent it, they fear its duration, and they let it colonize their entire identity. This mental resistance acts as a signal amplifier, keeping the brain in a state of high alert vigilance that makes sleep impossible. Tonight, you are practicing Stoic dissociation, a technique of mental partitioning where you draw a hard line between the physical sensation and the ruling faculty. You are acknowledging the pain while refusing to let it into the inner citadel where your peace resides. This partitioning is the application of objective description. Instead of thinking, "I am in pain," you refine the thought to, "There is a sensation of heat and pressure in the lower back." You treat the discomfort as a third-party report coming from a distant province of the empire. You are the emperor, and while you hear the report, you do not need to leave the capital to attend to it. By describing the pain in purely physical, non-emotional terms, you prevent the effective motivational component of pain, the part that causes the suffering. You are essentially quarantining the sensation. You allow the body to feel what it must, but you remain the silent, unbothered observer of the data. Physically, this dissociation triggers a process of top-down pain modulation. When you stop reacting to the pain with anxiety or resentment, your brain's periaqueductal gray, PAG, and rostral ventromedial medulla, RVM, begin to release endogenous opioids, natural painkillers like endorphins and enkephalins. By maintaining Stoic equanimity, you are literally telling your brain to turn down the volume on the pain signals. You are moving from a state of hyperalgesia, heightened sensitivity, to a state of neurological detachment. This allows the nervous system to settle enough to drop into the deeper stages of sleep, where the body can actually begin the repairs necessary to address the root of the discomfort. This creates a state of biological fortitude. You realize that the body can be in a state of dis-ease, while the mind remains in a state of ease. You are practicing the ultimate Stoic freedom, the ability to be at peace even when your tool is broken. This is not about numbing the pain through willpower. It is about outgrowing the pain through perspective. You are resting in the realization that your worth and your tranquility are not tied to a nerve ending. You are the master of the house, even if the walls are creaking. As you drift into rest, visualize the discomfort as a noise in another room. The noise is there, but the door is closed, and you are here in the silence. You have done what you can for the body. Now, you let the body be what it is, and you remain what you are. You are resting in the indestructible sanctuary of your own reason, safe, steady, and completely detached from the storm of the flesh. In the final hours of the day, the ego often becomes a desperate collector. It clutches at its achievements, its reputation, and even the right to a good night's rest. This possessiveness is the root of nighttime anxiety. We fear that if we don't sleep well, we will lose our edge, our health, or our productivity. But tonight, you are practicing the ultimate Stoic liberation, the nothing-to-lose mindset. You are embracing the radical truth that you own nothing, not your house, not your body, and certainly not the biological process of sleep. Everything you have is a loan from the Logos, and it can be recalled at any moment. By surrendering the illusion of ownership, you enter a state of perfect, unassailable peace. This mindset is the application of radical dispossession. You look at your bed, your room, and your very life, and you mentally say, "I am a guest here." Epictetus famously taught that we should treat life like a banquet. When a dish is passed to you, take your share with gratitude, but when it is moved along, do not try to pull it back. When you apply this to sleep, you realize that rest is a dish that nature may or may not serve you tonight. If you demand sleep, you are a beggar. If you accept whatever the night brings, you are a king. By having nothing to lose, you have nothing to defend. The hidden friction of your life vanishes because there is no ego left to protect. Physically, this surrender triggers a profound neurological decompression. Most insomnia is fueled by performance anxiety, the stress of trying to achieve a specific physiological state. This anxiety keeps the anterior cingulate cortex in a state of high conflict monitoring. But the moment you truly accept that sleep is not yours to own, the conflict ends. Your brain stops checking to see if you are asleep yet. This drop in monitoring allows the prefrontal cortex to fully disengage, which is the exact neurological requirement for transitioning into the deeper stages of sleep. Ironically, by being willing to lose your sleep, you create the very conditions that allow it to arrive. This creates a state of total existential weightlessness. You realize that even if you were to die in your sleep, you would lose nothing that truly belonged to you. You are resting in a state of pre-mortem clarity. This isn't morbid. It is the highest form of freedom. You are no longer a stakeholder in the world's drama. You are a silent observer of the universe's unfolding. In this void of ownership, there is no room for worry. You are safe because there is nothing of yours that can be harmed. As you drift now, let go of the handles. Release your grip on your plans, your worries, and your identity. You are a nameless, propertyless soul returning to the source for a few hours. You own nothing, you want nothing, and therefore you are everything. You are resting in the perfect, heavy peace of the dispossessed. As the door to the waking world closes, remember that you are not merely going to sleep. You are initiating a systematic overhaul of your soul. Through the topics we have explored, from the sleep of the just to the Stoic void, you have learned that rest is the ultimate gymnasium for the mind. You have transformed your bed into a fortress and your dreams into a training ground for resilience. By the time the morning light triggers your Stoic resurrection, you will no longer be the person who lay down. The neural pruning of passion has cleared the waste. The amor fati has healed the friction, and the hegemonicon's echo has set the tone for your return. You have reclaimed your night, and in doing so, you have mastered your life. Sleep now, not as a victim of exhaustion, but as a master of your nature. The dark is no longer a void. It is the forge where your strength is made. Leave a comment below with the one Stoic maxim or handy rule you are taking into the void with you tonight. Which thought will be the last to echo in your mind? Your insight might be the very subliminal virtue another member of this community needs to find their peace. If this deep dive into the neurophilosophy of rest has helped you find your center, ensure you don't miss our next battle briefing. Subscribe to the channel and toggle the notification bell. In a world of digital chaos, consider this your standing invitation to return to the citadel of reason.